Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About. I'm Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels, and we have plenty to talk about today. We've got some top-tier movie trailers that dropped this past week. We've got quite a bit reviews, some stuff that's not even out yet that we can talk about for Brian's side, because Brian gets to see some shit early, like he's a lucky motherfucker. And then we got like one or two news stories, nothing super crazy on that. It's mostly going to be a review-heavy show. So my time is incredibly slim. So normally you're like, why aren't you shooting single videos for these reviews? When we get to summer, we will probably be doing that with the bigger movies, but time is very, very small for me right now. So I was like, we're just going to do a review dump on this stuff. So, but first, let's go ahead and get our news stuff out of the way. There was one big news story. We considered it big news. I don't know if anyone cares about it. We do. But you go ahead with it, Brian.
Yeah, the only really major news story we have today is regarding Quentin Tarantino, who, of course, had said that he was going to only make one more film, and he had decided that last film was going to be The Movie Critic. And apparently Brad Pitt was attached to it. A lot of people he'd worked with in the past were going to be in this one. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and it's supposed to film this year, but then out of nowhere, all of a sudden he just cancels it. He says, I'm not making this movie anymore. I'm going back to the drawing board. I'm going to make something else as my final film. Whether that's the story wasn't working out for him, or whether it was he decided, this wasn't a good enough movie to go out on as his final film. He hasn't really given any reasons for it. But yeah, that film is now scrapped. And we don't know what his next film is going to be, his supposed last film. I don't think it's going to be his last film. I think he might retire for a short time and then get the itch to come back. There's also the possibility this comes back, either as his final film or later on, because like The Hateful Eight at one point he had canceled. After the script leaked and everybody knew the story and stuff, he canceled it, and then later on decided he was going to make it after all. So I don't know where it's going to go from here. All I know is we're not getting a Tarantino movie probably at least this year or next year. We'll see after that.
One, I hate how the directors are coming out, because who was it also? Was it Alex Garland saying that he might not make another one after Civil War or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, you're directors. You're like a pro wrestler who says they retire. All you need is an itch.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to scratch it, and you can come back and have one last match, one last movie. So
I totally get the idea of saying, oh man, this is so much. I'm so tired. I need to take some time off. But don't tell us you're retiring.
Yeah, it's just like, especially if you're like Tarantino.
Especially Tarantino. Yeah.
Now, if you're like James Cameron, who wants to make every Avatar movie ever, and then after he's like, after Avatar, I'm probably gonna be done. Then it's like, okay, well, you are older. Not that Tarantino's young, but he's not old, or anything like that. I feel like them saying this is gonna be my last movie is them trying to get a last ditch effort to try to get box office a little bit higher. To try to make
like those bands that have like 7 different farewell tours.
Yes, and it's like, yeah, but we have to do it on the East Coast now. And it's like, no, it's a farewell tour. Everyone on the East Coast probably came to see you, so you don't need to do it again. It's a cash grab. But one, I agree. I don't think whatever he comes out with is going to be his last movie, because either A, he's going to make whatever, and it wasn't good enough for him, so he's going to come and make another one, and so on and so forth, or someone's going to back up a fuckload of money. He's like, oh, fuck it. All right, I'll do another one. I wasn't really ecstatic about Movie Critic in general. Granted, we are movie critics, but that's the concept of it. It was like, because I heard that it was supposed to be like a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was supposed to be Brad Pitt's character from that in this, and I like Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I don't care to see more of that. I don't. I'd rather see, and I know Brian's going to disagree with me, I'd rather see Kill Bill Volume 3, or I'd rather see Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek. Because I'm sorry, that just sounds intriguing as hell to see what he does with a Star Trek kind of film, or something like Star Trek. Because I know people are going to freak the fuck out if Tarantino does a Star Trek movie. Do something like that then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd be intrigued to see him do it. He's done horror, he's done drama, he's done crime, he's done action. I'd like to see what he does with sci-fi. Not necessarily for his last film, if that's what he wants to do, but I'd like to see what Tarantino does with sci-fi. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, cool, but is this going to be like Cameron with Avatar, where it's like we're 5 years from now and he still hasn't come out with it yet because he doesn't know, he wants the last one to be perfect. And it's
Well,
like,
the fact that he was in theory not even working on this is a starting from scratch one tells me it's going to be at least a good 2-3 years
yeah,
before we see this movie. But I mean, he may have had ideas. He seems one of those guys who probably has like 5 ideas for movies at any given time. He just hasn't maybe written them out.
then make 10 to 5 more movies, dude.
I completely agree. You're talking to the wrong person here. But I think that, well, first of all, as far as the movie critic, I agree. We were not excited about this movie at all. I mean, honestly, a lot of the concepts, if you read me like the log line of his movies in the
True.
past, I'd look at them like, I don't really care about this movie. But then he makes it and he puts, his kind of stamp on it, his style and his dialogue, and it comes out really interesting. So I may have very much enjoyed this. Now, it did supposedly take place. I don't think it was a direct sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much as it was supposedly like in the world of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All I heard is that Brad Pitt was supposed to be playing.
And Brad Pitt was still in it, but he wasn't the main character. Obviously, there was this movie critic who was
No,
going
I
to be
just
the
know
main
that he was
character.
supposed to play the same character.
Yeah, but again, like I agree with you. I was not really interested in the idea at all. I don't see him making a sequel as his final film, whether it be Kill Bill Volume 3 or anything else. So I think he'll do something original. But I also think even if he supposedly retires, I think he'll keep working. He just might not direct. I mean, he's been wanting to write other films. He's done writing. He wanted to write a Star Trek film. At one point, he wasn't going to direct. He was just going to write it, which even that would still be interesting. Because I mean, the stuff he's written, like True Romance.
I was going to say, he wrote True Romance, but everyone considers that a Tarantino film anyway. So it's
weird because that movie, if you look at that movie, it's very much a Quentin Tarantino movie because it's a very dialogue heavy movie. It's a lot of conversations, but it's also visually very much a Tony Scott movie. So it's kind of almost had co-directors to that one. But there's that, and then I know he's like sometimes turned his scripts into like novels and things. I could see him writing books, things like that. But yeah, he's not retiring. He'll take some time off. I don't know. As far as the Star Trek thing, I can actually see that happening now more than ever.
I just see the Trek nerds losing their fucking mind when he starts doing like stuff that's not Trekky.
Well, here's how I look at it. I look at it like we just had a recent conversation about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or even Transformers, which are both also Paramount properties, like Star Trek, I will say. I think as long as you have the traditional route going, like if you have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the animated kids kind of version going, you can do, hey, there's this other thing we're going to do for a different audience, for adults, like this R-rated Last Ronin movie we're making, and they can both exist. But I don't think they want that to be their only, this is where Turtles is going from now on. I could see them, if they finally get Star Trek back online and make another movie and keep the flagship series going, he could do a Star Trek movie, kind of like a,
alternate
kind of thing. Yeah.
Kind of like we have 2 different versions of Batman. We're going to have 2 different versions of Joker. We did have 2 different versions of Transformers when Bumblebee started, but then they've kind of merged that together now with the old franchise. But now we're getting
the animated
Transformers. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that because we haven't a Star Trek movie in a while and everything's kind of gone back to TV with it, which is kind of where Star Trek's bread and butter is in the first place. If this is the first Star Trek movie that comes out and there's not another Star Trek movie coming out anywhere in the near future, that's when the Trekkies are going to be like, that's not Star Trek. Yeah. That's the problem there. It's like, I want to see that movie. I want to see that film. Hell,
I think it's not impossible, but I think you'll have to see a regular traditional Star Trek movie first.
Yeah, let Tarantino start writing for Black Mirror. Give him like an hour show, or have him do like a 3-parter on Black Mirror. That's Tarantino's like wheelhouse.
I could totally see like a Netflix or somebody who has a relationship because he did that Hateful Eight where he broke it into miniseries. I could see a Quentin Tarantino written anthology show where he brings in different directors for every episode, whether they be famous directors or like first-time directors given a chance.
He could do his own
interesting idea, actually.
He could do his own version of fucking Fargo, where basically it's just every season is something different. It's Tarantino's swing. He can bring, and it's Tarantino. No one's gonna say no to Tarantino. So I mean, he could do that. It's probably gonna be less stressful. He doesn't have to direct every episode. He can write it and produce, and it's like bring in a director that he likes, that he knows can shoot it, and he could make a killing off of that. And fuck Ryan Murphy. He's done that for what, a decade now? Granted, I'm not a big fan of Ryan Murphy, but it's working for him. But I mean, Tarantino could easily do that. So he's got options, and who the fuck knows what he's going to do now. But Movie Critic, I agree. It's not something that was awesome on paper, but all of a sudden we need to see is one trailer, and we're like, yay. Because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't intrigue us. And then we saw
good news, bad news, I think, because it's like, I'm sad that there will be that much longer without seeing another Tarantino film. But at the same time, it's like maybe it'll be something that sounds a little more interesting to me. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do we have any other news, or we want to
The
jump
only
right?
other real news I found recently that was worth mentioning is they're making a Chris Farley biopic, starring Paul Walter Hauser and directed by Josh Gad.
That is the weirdest like trio. Like
Yeah.
now, if this was a comedy movie with all three of them, granted I know Farley's dead, but if you had Farley, Gad, and Hauser in a movie like a Three Stooges kind of movie, I'd be like, oh, that's perfect.
Well,
But
that's the question. Is it going to be kind of a comedy, kind of showing him? And I mean, obviously, he'll probably show
they
like
have to
his
go down
death
that
and things
road.
like that. So
Yeah.
in which case you have to involve like the drug use and things like that. But it's like, how serious is it going to be? Because there's like a biopic on John Belushi called Wired that was just like completely serious. It was all about his drugs and his dark side, and it's like, and nobody cared about the movie, and it disappeared from the world. If anything, caused some controversy. People hated it because it made him look so bad. So I don't think they're going to go so dark like that. But I also don't think it's going to be this lighthearted, Tommy Boy style comedy. So it's like it's one of those where they got to really find the right tone.
I feel like because it's Paul Walter Hauser, I know he can do comedy. I don't think if you're casting him to be Farley, I feel like it's going to go more the serious route. Like it's going to have its goofy wackiness to it. But when we get to that point in Farley's life, it's going to go serious. Because Paul Walter Hauser, you look at him, you don't think much, but then you watch what he does and what he's capable of doing. Hell, Blackbird, for example, he was phenomenal in it. And he's got comedy like in Cobra Kai and stuff like that, where he can be wacky, but he's more of a serious actor. It's the Gad directing that throws me for the loop.
Yeah, has he
Like, I don't
directed
necessarily
anything?
why Paul Walter Hauser is like when I look at Chris Farley, I don't go, oh yeah, Paul Walter Hauser, that makes sense. I don't see that, but they can make him look that and be fine. But Josh Gad as director, that's the weird one for me.
Yeah, I was just looking up. Yeah, he hasn't directed anything before this. So
This is a project that I wouldn't want a first time director doing.
I
Does
don't know.
Gad know Farley? Did Gad know Farley at all?
I don't know the connection. I don't think there's any connection at all. So
Like I would feel like Mike Myers and Sandler and Spade would probably want to have their hands in this at somewhere because it's like if you're going to talk about their best friend, they got to be attached to this as producers, writers, something. Because
I mean,
I'm sorry,
he has been in movies like Pixels with Sandler, things like that. So I kind of feel like it's not going to be like a hit job. It's going to be more of a tribute kind of movie.
yeah,
But
but I would
there's no other
be,
cast announced. There's nothing else. There's no even producers or anything on this. So it's kind of like wait and see.
oh, I wouldn't think Gad would be going out there to shit over Farley. If anything, it's going to be out of
Oh, it's
respect.
produced by Lauren Michaels. I
Okay,
just saw that. So yeah.
yeah. So I feel like Sandler, Spade, and wow, I just blanked on the third name. Sandler, Spade, and I said his name earlier, and I already played. I feel like they'd have to be attached to this in some form or fashion, just to make sure they get the essence of Farley properly. And Lauren as well, because Lauren knows Chris from SNL and stuff like that. So I feel like as long as they're in the mix, then I don't think it's going to be. I don't think Gad's going to run away and do something stupid. Not that I think he would anyway. I think he's going to try to be as respectful as he can. But I feel like with those three guys, they gotta. If they're not attached to this, which Lauren is, but if Farley and Spade or not Farley, Sandler and Spade are not attached to this in any form or fashion, then there's something wrong. Someone's not doing something right because they need to be there for. Like, hey, I got some stories. Hey, I got.
If they weren't there, I think that I think they probably would share the story, especially Lauren Michaels involved, and I think that if they're probably those people are going to be portrayed in this movie, and they're alive, and Lauren Michaels is going to want to offend them. So I think it's going to be done tastefully and respectfully in that. I just don't know. Again, with Josh Gad as director, if it'll be good. Not saying it won't. We just haven't seen him direct. And Paul Walter Hauser, as much as I like him as a director, as an actor. I don't know if he has the same comedy style. I don't know if he can pull off kind of that thing. So, but the question is, how much of it is going to be showing him doing his comedy, and how much of it going to be like showing like the kind of troubled actor when he wasn't on stage kind of thing.
Mike Myers, that was the other name I said.
Oh, okay.
Mike Myers.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's that?
That was the only other news story I had.
Yeah, I mean, we shot our last episode during CinemaCon, so I mean, there was stuff that popped up after our episode, but it's having a hard time just trying to remember. The only thing that I think that we legitimately had like general thoughts on was the rated R Turtles film, which I'm all for. Last Ronin, Raphael, R-rated film. Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I was just very surprised by it. Like I hadn't heard that news yet, and you messaged me about it, and I was like, that's not going to happen. Even if they say that they're going to do that, they're not going to do that.
I was like, yes, they are.
I was surprised. I mean, pleasantly surprised. I'm glad it's happening. I was just surprised it's happening. But again, I think that that's made possible by the fact that they are continuing the Mutant Mayhem line, because it's like they wouldn't want that to be their only direction for it.
And they got the TV series for that starting, I think, this year or next year or something like that. So, I mean, you got the TV, you got the movie. Now you're going to give us a little darker turn, which is, I think, what every Turtle fan has wanted, because Turtles can get super dark.
Well, that's the original comic book was dark. Yeah.
What's that?
The original comic book was dark.
Exactly.
It was not a kid's comic book.
Exactly. And hell, if you even look at the original, I know you're not as big a fan of it, but you look at the original TMNT, that was way darker than I think anyone intended. And then the sequel is like, are going campy and kiddie, which you can still have fun with it, but those are two drastically different tone films. But yeah, give me an R-rated Raphael film as The Last Ronin. Hell to the fucking yeah. Next, we're going to go to the trailers. Obviously, the biggest trailer that popped up, Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, granted, Brian and I had a conversation the night before this came out, because I was like, I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to see
trailer coming tomorrow.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to watch this. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to do anything. Brian's like, there's no way in hell we're not going to make it to July and not see this trailer. And I was like, fuck, you're right.
Yeah, it's just so early. It's like, I mean, usually you see like a teaser trailer now and then a final trailer like, a month out. But we're still, 3 months away from this movie.
Yeah.
And they're releasing this second trailer, essentially. And it's like I was telling you, when it gets close to a movie, they start releasing like all kinds of clips online, or they start releasing TV spots. I have no problem. I can avoid those because I don't watch TV, and you have to actively go to watch like an online clip and things like that. And I never watch any of that stuff. But a trailer 3 months out, yeah, there's no way I'm going to
be on every fucking movie we go see in theaters.
There's right. And so I'm like, I might as well watch it now. The only good thing is it seems like they've really kind of focused on certain parts of the movie to show us. I think there's a lot of stuff that they are not showing us, because even at CinemaCon, when they showed them like, I want to say 10, 15 minutes of footage from this movie.
Yeah.
And they came out and told them they're like, we had a hard time putting together a collection of things to show you, because there's so much things we don't want to show, that we showed you what we could. And so that really, and especially with Ryan Reynolds' history and how he promotes these things, that really kind of makes me feel good that they are, not going to show us everything. They know they have some great stuff in there that they're hiding from us, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, and you and I were both in agreement after we actually watched the initial trailer. Outside of just like a baseline story, and even then, not delved in deep enough, this was the perfect trailer to show. You get to see him and Wolverine fight, which we already knew they were shooting, because every time we see a production photo, it's at them in that sandy area. We knew they were going to fight each other, so you gave us some of that fight. You got to see who the villain is, which basically looks like Sorcerer. She looks like Sorcerer Supreme from from Doctor Strange. We got to see that all the OG casts from Deadpool is there, at least in one
scene. For TJ Miller.
Oh, I mean, he could have been there, and they could just shoot a shot from him from the back or something like that to show that he's there, but he's not really there. And we got to see Hugh Jackman as Logan, and hell yeah, in his OG yellow and blue, which I don't need the helmet. I'll take him as that, and that's totally fine. We got the laughs, we got some action, we got the gore. It looks fun. I don't want to see anything else from this, because everything else after that is going to ruin the movie. But I do think the one funny thing, and Ryan's even come out and said we didn't plan that, is that the day the trailer got released, which was yesterday, Living on a Prayer, the freaking Madonna song.
Like a Prayer.
Apparently also got released yesterday for the first time. Back then. Oh,
like an anniversary, you mean? Okay, good.
Yeah, it was the anniversary of when it got released, and it was on the tree. He goes, I did not plan that. I was like, if you did, you're lying. And also, if you're not, that's really fucking cool that happened that way. But yeah, I mean, we're already at a 10 on excitement level for this movie. I mean, once they attached Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, people are still freaking out because they still think this is the same Logan from Logan. It's not, guys.
You see more than one Logan in this trailer. So
Yeah, exactly. And you've seen more than one Logan in Logan. It's not the same fucking Wolverine. Through the entire X-Men franchise, we've had at least, I think, from Logan to the first X-Men, there's been, what, 4 different Logans? I think. So it's like, what makes you guys think that this is the Logan from Logan? Granted, I know Deadpool had the Logan death reference, I think, at the beginning of Deadpool 2, because he's got that little toy that spins. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's grabbing that fucking Logan.
I think he's going. I think he's going after multiple Logans in this movie, like whether trying to find like one to help him or whatever it is. But
exactly,
my thing about this trailer is I watched this trailer and I told you that it didn't do a whole lot for me. Now that's not to say I didn't like it. There's funny stuff in this trailer. This felt like it was another first trailer for me because, like you said, our expectations, our excitement is already up at 10, so it couldn't really go anywhere. And
I
so
honestly I'd rather be like you, where the trailer didn't do anything for me. Because I'd rather it not do anything for me and maybe even lower my expectations a little bit. So when I go in there, it blows through. Because if we stay at a 10 the whole fucking time and it doesn't match us, then we're like, oh, it's kind of a disappointment.
And that's definitely a danger of that. But it's like I watched this trailer and I was kind of like, okay, that was funny, but it didn't like, a trailer should like make you a little more excited for the movie that's coming up. And it didn't really do that for me. I was like, okay, this is amusing stuff, but nothing jumped out and like super excited me, but I'm okay with that because I'm already still excited. There's nothing about it that made me feel any worse about the movie. I didn't feel, I'm not more pessimistic or anything. I still think it's going to be great. And I'm all for them. Hide everything. Like you said, if they would just not release a trailer, that'd be great. I wouldn't have to watch anything. With the fact they released one, I'm like, I know I'm going to end up seeing it. I might as well watch it now. Now, the question is the timeline of the next trailer. There'll be one more, whether it be like a month out or something like that.
I'd say probably a month or a month and a half from now. We'll probably get
that's the one I will have to make the decision. Like, do I watch this or will I not be able to avoid this one?
I feel like that one's going to delve deeper into the story and it's going to show a lot more spoilery things.
But I also don't think they're going to spoil too much, especially that's the other thing is everyone's expecting this one to be cameo fest. Same thing to do with Multiverse of Madness. Now there are some confirmed cameos. I think there will be a lot of them. But everybody's throwing out every single name that's ever existed in Marvel, and this is
the same thing that happened with Multiverse of Madness, and everyone got pissed off.
Just stop. We know there's going to be cameos, but just stop predicting because you're only setting yourself up for disappointment.
Exactly. I've stayed away from all the cameo announcements. I've tried anything that's Deadpool. I just nope, move. Because I don't want to.
Well, the fact that they've officially announced some of them, they're like they come out and said, "Oh, this person's going to be in the movie. This person's going to show up in the movie," and it's like the fact that they're giving you a couple tells me there's a lot more.
Yeah, and I don't even know what those are because I haven't read them, or if I did, I already blocked them out in my brain because I don't even remember what the cameos they've announced are, and I'm happy that I don't know it. Continue to happy not to know it. Next trailer that we've got to talk about here is one that's a little divisive between us. You immediately came out and actively shit on this trailer. And I was like, it's not that bad. And that's Transformers 1.
Oh, yes.
I was at work, so I didn't know. Granted, the night before I saw they did some publicity thing. I was like, oh, the trailer's probably coming out tomorrow. And then I'm at work and I get a message from Brian going, well, you can take Transformers 1 off my most anticipated. This looks like some preschool kiddie crap. And I was like, oh no, what? And then I watched the trailer. I'm like, it's not that bad. It's nowhere near that bad. But Brian, go ahead. You are not a fan of this trailer.
I'm not.
I had a feeling beforehand. Once I knew that it was animated, your foot was already half out the door anyway.
It wasn't though. I was actually very interested in it because I obviously I watched the Transformers series, the OG one when I was a kid. And so, I loved it. I grew up with it. I had the toys, all that kind of stuff. And then I've, of course, seen the movies, which, have been various levels of decent. And so they're making an animated one while continuing the other one. I'm like, great, let's see an animated film because they could do so much more with it. It could be more like, almost like that first section of Bumblebee where we get to, Cybertron because they don't have to worry about, real world physics. Since that's animation, they can do whatever they want. I'm all for it. They have, Chris Hemsworth. They have Scarlett Johansson,
Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson.
All these voices, the great voices in it. I'm like, okay, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm like, oh, trailer tomorrow? Great, let's watch this trailer. And really, from moment one, I'm just like, it looks, the animation quality and style of it, and just the feel of it, the tone and the comedy, things like that. It does feel to me totally like a TV show and one that was made for like young children, the kind of people who watch, like my kids watch like Dino Trucks and all these, it's like a preschool level of animation, both in the look of the animation and in the style of the story and the comedy, things like that. And there's a place for that. I think kids will love this movie, but this is not for me at all. I don't even know if I see it. If I do, it'll probably be the kind of thing I like, put up on Paramount Plus while I'm doing something
I'm gonna
else.
have to bug Brian into watching this if it's good. That's what's gonna happen. I'm like, Brian, you really should watch it. It's great. No, seriously, check it out. And then he'll give it 3 stars.
So yeah, so it's definitely a thing that I am no longer anticipating. I'm no longer looking forward to it. It'll come out. I might see it at some point, but it's not something I look at and think it's actively bad. It's just for a different audience than I would have wanted to watch. That's all.
Yeah, I was never really outright excited for this when I heard about it, mainly because of the voices. And yes, I like everyone that's a voice, but when you tell me that Hemsworth is Optimus Prime, I was like, well, that's not fucking Optimus Prime's voice. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, could you find someone else? Like, at least kind of do Peter Cullen? Not that Peter Cullen couldn't do it himself, because he fucking could. But I was just kind of like, I don't see how we get from Hemsworth to Peter Cullen in terms of voices. So that was already kind of like, but
apparently he consulted with Peter Cullen in creating the voice for him.
Well,
Although
I'm sure
it sounds like a normal voice, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it just sounds like Hemsworth, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just Peter Cullen's been the voice of Optimus Prime for fucking like 40 plus years, and we're just now just all of a sudden hear Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, and I guess that this is like the young version of these characters, like when they but it's like, do robots age?
Yeah, it's like his voice box, unless he gets damaged or he changes a mode in his settings, you're gonna go from like Chris Hemsworth to I am Optimus Prime, and it's like no, like you can't do that. It's not, he's not gonna hit robot puberty between here and now. He's not gonna drop his oil balls. It's like what the fuck's gonna happen?
Oh wait, Devastator did that in Dark of the Moon.
We don't talk. No, that was Revenge of the
Fallen. Sorry,
and we ain't gonna talk about that shit show. But the trailer itself, I actually liked what I saw because we never ever get to see what it was like before they went bad. It was just always, here's the war, they're going to Earth, this is what it is. We never got to see the before. We never got to see the young Anakin. Not that we want young Anakin from Phantom Menace, but we never got to see Obi-Wan before Star Wars. We never got to, we saw that in prequels. This is basically a prequel, which is why it's called Transformers 1. And Bumblebee, I like the mindset of Megatron and Optimus were actually best friends, which explains so much why Optimus Prime won't ever kill Megatron for the most part, and why he in every movie that he actually does, he feels like he's absolutely forced to do it at the last moment, and he doesn't want to. Why? Because they have history together. They were friends. They were Dom and Brian in Fast and Furious. They were all this kind of stuff, and the animation, I agree. The animation didn't wow me, but how many times have we not been wowed by an animation from a trailer? And then we watched the movie, we're like, actually, that was actually pretty damn good. We felt that way about about Spider-Verse. The first time we saw the trailer for it, we're like, oh, what the fuck is this?
I disagree on that, but because that's one where I'm like, why are they making the animated version? We don't want an animated Spider-Man.
I think it was more than doing the animated, but even same thing. It's like,
but honestly, though, I saw the trailer, I'm like, ooh, this animation is pretty cool. That's actually what hooked me into watching it. So
I mean, but okay, Turtles Mayhem animation on that though. Everyone was like, but then it's like, you know what? That actually looks really cool. It actually is really well done. I like how ugly it looks.
You just have to adjust to it, yeah.
Exactly. You're going to have that first 10 minutes of the movie, and then after that, it's going to be fine. And I feel like the story that they're going to be telling with this, it's a good way, much like we were saying with earlier with Turtles, how you can have the animated, then you can have the live action R-rated thing. We've already got Transformers live action, who is now in a better place than it was with Michael Bay. They already announced we're getting that crossover movie with G.I. Joe and Transformers, which I'm excited for. Brian is not. But once again, a trailer could easily sway Brian for that. But now we got an animated version that's more towards kids, but it can still be, because here's the thing, and I know this isn't going to sway you because I already know your thoughts on this. We were all kind of in the same mindset Brian was when Clone Wars came out, when Star Wars Rebels came out, and when the TMNT 2013 on Nickelodeon came out. It's like, oh, they're just doing it for kids. I want a fucking one that I'm going to love and enjoy. And you know what? You had to get through the first like fucking 10, 15 episodes where it was acting very kiddie. And then they realized, you know who's watching this? The fans who are older, not the kids. Let's make this shit dark. And all three of them became some of the best animated shows ever. Clone Wars, beloved by so many people. I mean, look at Ahsoka. Ahsoka was a bratty little annoying kid character, so they could have a kid Jedi that the kids could root for. Now she's one of the most beloved Jedi in the Star Wars world. Maybe not to Brian, because Brian didn't really watch the animateds that much. But and then same thing with Rebels. Rebels started off super fucking kiddie, and then became something fucking amazing. TMNT on Nickelodeon started off super kiddie. Is one of the most beloved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated shows ever outside of the OG series. Transformers 1 didn't pique the interest. But by the end of the fucking movie, it could go, you know what? This is actually really good. And it's not towards preschool kids or anything like that. It's just the trailer peaked it that way. But you know what? Once we get into the movie, we get into the thick of the story with performances. Because I'm sorry, I don't think with the cast that they have that this is a preschool movie. Or I mean, granted, it came off that way to Brian. But I feel like with the cast they've got, there's going to be some good shit in this. And they wouldn't have that cast and not already have sequels planned. Once the thing was with animated, you can easily swap them out and put another voice in there. But it didn't move the needle for me, but I was intrigued by them going this route with it than doing the same tired Transformers stories we've seen many, many times before, where the Transformers come to Earth and they got to pretend, their cars. Like, I liked in the trailer that they didn't know how to transform. And they're trying to figure that shit out. And eventually it's going to go down a dark path. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Like I said, I'm definitely intrigued by it. And I'm sure I'm going to have to bug Brian to watch the hell out of this when it comes out, if it's good. But yeah, I was actually more piqued by this than obviously Brian. But Brian also put me in a negative headspace before I watched it because he sent me that message. Then I was watching, I was like, this isn't that bad. I'm not mad at this. But yeah. What's the next trailer? I think, is it Hitman?
We got a couple, yeah. Hitman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hitman is a movie we've been looking forward to for a long time. It's because we know how we feel about Glenn Powell. We've been pushing for him to make, kind of break out. He kind of finally is now after Top Gun Maverick. He got Anyone But You. He got a starring role in. He's got Twisters coming out this year, and then there's also Hitman, which was an independent movie that he kind of, I think it was his idea originally. I think him and Richard Linklater were developing this idea together, and they finally made this movie. They hit the festival circuit, things like that. It's gotten a lot of good feedback, and now it's finally coming out. Although it is coming in Netflix, but at least it's getting released.
Well, isn't it getting a duo release? Isn't it getting a theater release and a Netflix release?
I don't think so. Netflix doesn't generally.
I'll look it up. Keep going. I thought it was getting a duo release.
But so when this movie's coming out, we don't really know much about it. He's a hitman. The trailer finally came out this week, and it seems like he is actually a college professor who helps the cops by posing as a hitman to help them trap these people who are trying to hire hitmen to carry out these hits on their wives or whoever it is, or husbands. And then
being released in select cinemas May 24th, then going to Netflix on June 7th.
Oh, good. Although I'm sure it's a super limited release. I don't even know if we get another area. Probably like a New York, LA kind of thing. Maybe Chicago. I'd have to travel if I want to see it. Mm-hmm. But then he gets involved with this girl played by Adria Arjona, who, first of all, looks smoking hot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God damn.
Damn. You want to forgive her for Morbius. But apparently, her husband actually shows up dead or something like that. We don't know all the details of the story, but it seems like it's kind of a comedy, drama, thriller, kind of a mixed genre thing, which is not is not unusual for especially an independent film like this. I think it looks very good. I love Glenn Powell. The only thing that gets me is a little bit in the tone of the movie, because when he puts on these disguises to pose as this hitman when he meets with people, some of them are super over the top. He's got the black trench coat of the weird slick back hair, and it just looks like it might be leaning a little too far into goofy comedy, which is, I don't feel like it's the tone of the movie, so I don't know if the outfits will fit that. But again, I haven't seen the film. Maybe it all works out. This doesn't make me think any less of the film. I'm still excited to see it. It's just, it made me kind of scratch my head a little bit.
Yeah, see, and because I think you and I both were in the mindset this was going to be an action hitman film for him.
I didn't think it was an action film necessarily, but I just wasn't expecting the comedy.
It was basically like kind of like a action rom-com to a point.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us were expecting that. I think we were expecting kind of a Hitman movie with him, which I was like, all right, cool, Glenn Powell, fantastic, because we both love Glenn Powell, and this is what we got. And I think both of us were just kind of taken aback by it, but I was actually, I think, more like, okay, because I actually liked the idea of him doing all these different kind of dress ups impressions, because, and I even said it to you in a message. I was like, these are going to be as good as they can be if they allow Glenn Powell to just have fun with it. And we all know that Glenn Powell is eventually going to become this top tier star. Twisters very well could be the one that gets him there, because Top Gun Maverick, he was kind of a co-lead. Anyone But You put him in everyone's interest, even though we had been watching him since Scream Queens and Set It Up. But he's now kind of in the limelight. And Twisters might bump him into the next hemisphere, and then all of a sudden he becomes an action hero with some comedy and all, like Hemsworth to a point. Let's enjoy him while he still is doing this stuff. And I am all for him acting wacky and having fun with something like this, especially with Linklater, if he has a good script with it. Like, I'm intrigued to see what all these different characters are like, and how he basically isn't like, and apparently this is based on a true story.
It's one of those like loosely based on a true story. Like the concept of helping them out is probably the only part that's actually true.
You want to know what the sad part was? Right when I saw that, like, based on a true story of a fake hitman, my brain immediately went to that fucking Kevin James Netflix movie where he was like a fake
assassin or something.
He's a fake, it was fake assassin. I was like, this isn't the same story, is it? With Glenn Powell? Because please, I don't want that. But it isn't, gladly. But this trailer actually made me more excited for it. Like, I think, what's her name?
Adria Arjona.
Looks fucking gorgeous. We all get why Glenn Powell fucks up in the movie. But I liked what I saw from it. It actually made me more excited for it, because this was one of those movies I think in January you brought it up, and I was like, wait, what? And I didn't hear anything about it. And we both been kind of just waiting for it to come out. I mean, granted, I think a lot more people are positive on Anyone But You than me and Brian were, and that's not because of Glenn Powell. That was more for Sydney Sweeney. But it's trending in the right direction. It just dropped on Netflix. So I'm sure it's even going to blow up even more, and in Glenn Powell's favor. And so this coming out with that, I feel like is going to boost it even more. So by the time we get to Twister, Glenn Powell is already going to be right fucking here, which is where we want him. So this might be the last film that we actually get Glenn Powell, like fun Glenn Powell, where he's just doing weird, wacky shit that we loved him in the first place for. So I'm all for this kind of film. And I
don't feel, I'm not as much of a doomsayer as you. I don't think this is gonna be the last time we see him. I think
I'm not saying the doomsayer. I'm just saying, like, how many actors does it take? Like granted, Gosling. Well, let's go Gosling real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Gosling. First time we saw Gosling, he was the goofy string bean funny kid in Remember the Titans. And then he became Mr. King romantic drama, not even rom-com. It was just romance book drama. Then he became I'm dark and edgy and stuff. And it wasn't until like recently. Like, granted, you had a little bit of it with The Good Guys. We're like, oh, he could still be funny. But then he went back to serious again. And now we're getting him in Fall Guy and these other things. It takes a while for them to get back to what made us love him in the first place. What I'm saying is that with Glenn Powell shooting up the ranks, it might be a while before we get Glenn back to something like this. I'm not saying he won't ever come back to it, but
it's possible. I think what gives me a little more faith is the fact that, he did create this along with Richard Linklater, and they clearly have a relationship. Because actually the first place I ever saw him, or at least the first place I really recognized him, said, hey, that guy's good, was Everybody Wants Some, which he was in, with a Richard Linklater film. And he was awesome then. That's the first time I kind of paid attention to him as an actor. And so the fact that they're kind of the creative force behind this, I could see them doing more things in the future. I can see that Glenn Powell actually has a desire to, while he was going to star in these blockbusters and things like that, he also has like stories that he wants to foster and tell, because things like this, or he's actually the one who's one of the main producers of this, a documentary about the Blue Angels or somebody coming out this summer. He's the one that pushed that and produced that. And because he has stories he wants to tell. And I think that's great, because I think that the actors who do those kind of things are the ones who, they still make the entertainment, the big blockbuster films, but they still also, will make things that are like this, that, stories they want to tell. So that gives me some comfort and hope.
You know where, and I could be far off base, but just like it popped in my head here. you know what I kind of wish he would have, but a bigger career than him, but can still go back and forth with, like John Cusack. I would love it if Powell had a Cusack, bigger career, obviously, than Cusack. Because Cusack was super high, and then he just kind of, every time he probably like, "Hey, John," but he never hit that. I would love it if he had those where he could go out and he could do the big shit, and like you said, come back and do the little stuff, and not have it like fuck his career up like it did with Cusack. But yeah, I was like, I would love to have him have like a Cusack-esque but bigger career.
Back in like the 90s, Cusack, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Once Cusack fell into that, half my stuff is going straight to VOD section. It's like,
not to the point.
He's
one ever
paychecks is all he's doing.
I don't think anyone ever got sick of Cusack. It's just he started making bad film choices. I think Glenn Powell can be that, where he can be funny, he can be serious, he can have action, he can do all this stuff, and everyone's just going to love it.
I can absolutely see. I mean, I don't think they would do it, but just in terms of the tone of the movie, and maybe that's what this movie is. I could see Glenn Powell in a Grosse Pointe Blank kind of movie, and this is almost
because that's where my brain went, was Grosse Pointe Blank. It's like, Cusack, that would be great if he did something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm actually excited to see this, and like I said, Brian, you still are too. You just
I'm excited to see it. I was just a little thrown off by the goofiness.
Yeah, exactly. Going to our last trailer. You all know how I feel about this director. I call him the ultimate con artist because he knows how to make trailers look good. Now, this trailer, intriguing, didn't make me go like, "Oh my god, he's back," because that's not what I got at all from this trailer. But you've piqued my interest. Now the question is do I want to be do I want to be tricked again? And that is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Now, I'll admit, I'm pretty sure this was on my most anticipated, or at least it was it was on it, I think, and then I had to take it off because we had to condense the list down. It might have been on the actual list. I can't remember. That was 3 months ago, and a lot of shit's happened, or 4 months ago. But I remember reading the concept of this was like crazy shit happens at a concert starring Josh Hartnett. I'm like, okay. I like Josh Hartnett. I think that his career took a downfall for literally no reason in the mid 2000s. I think it was Hollywood Homicide killed his career for some reason. And now he's kind of gotten a resurgence. We got him back in Oppenheimer, and now it's like, oh yeah, everyone remembers that Josh Hartnett was actually someone people liked, and so let's start putting them in shit. The trailer intrigued me. I'm hoping that he didn't give the twist away in the trailer, but if we all know M. Night, there is probably a twist on top of said twist.
Because they definitely gave away a twist in the trailer. It's just a matter if there's another twist.
Oh, even before they fucking gave it away, in my head I'm going, he's the killer. Like, he's totally the killer. And then they're like, oh yeah, he is. I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured that out, because it's either he's the killer or his girl in a stadium of thousands upon thousands is the one girl that gets grabbed by the killer. I'm like, nah, I'd rather have him be the killer, which is what they're doing. So I'm like, I like where this is going. Now watch I'm going to call this right now. Watch the twist be that the daughter is the killer and he's been protecting her ass the whole time. That's the twist. Because M. Night would do it. M. Night would do it. It's like, actually, no, it's the daughter who's been the killer the whole fucking time. The dad's just the one that protects her. Watch that be the fucking twist.
I think the title of the movie is Trap. I think I hate predicting twists, because especially at night Shyamalan movies, you go in like, oh, what's the twist going to be? What's the twist going to be?
I would rather pick a twist right now that's so dumb that what it does isn't that okay. What could have been this though?
Well, it's called Trap, and it's like I think that it's not, they have him trapped there. I think somehow the twist is that he's trapping them there for whatever reason. I don't know the motivation or the goal behind it. But
fucking I think John Wick. He's not gonna be like, I'll kill all you motherfuckers.
No, but I think there's something more to it in that way. I'll be honest that the concept of the story is decent to me, but I don't know where you go with it. Like, okay, they're there, the cops are here, because they hear this butcher is going to be at this concert, and so they're there, and and we know that he's the real killer, but like, I don't know where you go with it after that. Beyond just,
how are they going to know he's the fucking killer in a stadium full of thousands of people? Like, you're gonna have to do something yourself to make you look obvious, unless they know what you look like, which we don't know yet. But that's the thing too. And also, I'm sorry, but the performance of the guy who tells him everything, like, I'm not supposed to tell you. Oh, but let me tell you everything right now. He's like trying to do like a Lil Rel Howery impression. I was just like, that's a lot to give us in the trailer, but that performance is not good. So hopefully they tighten that up for the movie. But I'm intrigued because it's Hartnett, and I want to see Hartnett do good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really give a shit about M. Night. Granted, Knock at the Cabin wasn't bad. I think we all appreciated Night at the Cabin, but
I like that quite a bit.
What's that?
I did like that one quite a bit.
Yeah, but M. Night has kind of like a 1 out of 3 ratio of good to awful. Like 1 out of every 3 movies he's done is like.
I will say, and I might be in the minority here, but I think that his recent streak is far better than his old streak that everybody loved. Because I mean, A Sixth Sense I thought was okay, hugely overrated. Unbreakable I thought was pretty good. Signs, and then they did like
probably my favorite M. Night film.
But they did like Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, After Earth. He's had a string of just complete shit.
Dog shit.
But then I mean, his last ones he's done. What the last few he's done was Knock at the Cabin. Before that was Old and Glass and Split. And I actually liked all those movies.
The Visit.
The Visit was right before that. Yeah, The Visit was kind of the one where people were like, well, maybe he's back. We'll see,
and then Split, and you're like, oh shit. And then to me, Glass was an utter disappointment.
See, I like Glass a lot. I actually really enjoyed Glass. But that and then Old, I thought, when Old Not Perfect. Well, Not Perfect is actually, pretty enjoyable. And then Knock at the Cabin I really liked. So I'm not, I don't see an M. Night Shyamalan's name on a movie and be like, oh wow, I can't wait for this movie. But it doesn't make me be like, oh shit, like it did back in the 2000s. So. And
technically, you also have another one of his movies, even though he's a producer, but it's his daughter with Watchers,
which also just got a new trailer. When I went and saw Abigail, I think it was. I saw a new.
I did not watch the new trailer, so I really have
longer trailer for that. It doesn't give anything more away. Just kind of it's kind of more of the same kind of setup for it, and it looks like it could be intriguing. So I'm going to at least check it out.
I would like to see Dakota Fanning actually like start becoming something again, because it's just like she was such a great young actress, and then she just kind of pops up and shit. And she's like, oh yeah, there's Dakota Fanning.
Well, now she's on this weird like I don't know what this tour she's on lately, because she popped up in Equalizer.
Yeah.
Reuniting with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, which felt like she was just there because of Man on Fire.
It's like let's reunite. But she was a little kid, but now she's a grown up and she's in this movie with Denzel.
Yeah.
And then I just saw a poster for some other new movie coming out later this year with her and Sean Penn, who she was in with I Am Sam when she was a little kid. It's like, is she just going to go revisit all of her former co-stars?
No, was she with someone younger when she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Was there someone in that she was with when she was younger?
Well, it's a big enough cast. I'm sure somebody in there was in the movie.
Probably. But
well, I guess you can't really do Brittany Murphy, so that doesn't work.
But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by Watcher probably more than Trap, but I feel like Watcher is very close to teetering a line between It's the Village, which, please don't fucking be The Village, like just please don't.
Well, you know what she needs to do. This I don't remember her first name, but his daughter. What she definitely needs to not do is have a twist at the end. In her debut,
I think there's no way you don't have a twist based off of the premise of the movie.
But I mean, they can be like, see where the movie goes without it being like a twist. Because if they put some kind of like game changing twist at the end of the game, her career is going to be basically over. She's like, oh, she's just copying her dad and her twist thing. And so
she's just little M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just it's just the younger version of it.
Yeah.
But next, unless you have any other trailers, I don't think there's any more.
I don't have any offhand, no.
All right, let's go ahead and go to the movie reviews. Well, movie and TV reviews. Let's stick with movies for now because our TV shows are actually kind of the primaries. Brian, you got to see something early, and I'm pissed.
I did. Last night I got to see Boy Kills World. Because AMC does their screen unseen, mystery movies. I think Regal and Cinemark both did the same movie last night as their mystery movies. They do this every couple weeks. They show a movie and it's anywhere from a few days to a couple weeks early, but you don't know what it is. Although, hint for all you people out there: as long as you don't live on the East Coast, you can find out ahead of time and cancel your tickets if you want. Because I always just watch a couple online forums or Twitter. People on the East Coast. They tell me what the movie is, and at 6 o'clock my time, and so by the time I hit 7 o'clock my time, I can cancel it before that. But I kind of thought it was gonna be Boy Kills World. Went and saw it. And this is one I was excited about just because, I like my, this bloody, violent, stupid, fun kind of movies. Bill Skarsgård, I think, is a decent actor. I don't love him, but I've enjoyed him a lot of stuff. Jessica Roth, who I wish we'd see a lot more of. She doesn't show up in hardly anything. I mean, I liked her in the Happy Death Day movies, things like that, but she hasn't really done much else. But I was interested to see this movie. Without giving me spoilers, because obviously Sean hasn't seen it, most of you haven't seen it. It's
I honestly forgot that it came out this week. I didn't think I was like, wow, this came out early. Like, oh no, it's like 4 days. It's like, oh, okay.
It absolutely delivers on the bloody, gory violence. There's just blood everywhere. There's especially I mentioned in my review in the last act, but especially the last fight. There's a whole lot of spots you go, oh shit, just cringing and things like that is some of the shit they do. So it delivers on that. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to get what you want. For me, it was just a little uneven in terms of the rest of the movie because I had fun scenes, and then there was other scenes where you're just kind of like, okay, this is kind of boring me. Let's move on. And then the voiceover thing, which is something that I was kind of on the fence on from the very first trailer. It's like I kind of like the idea of it, and I love the idea of this inner voice because he's deaf and mute. But you hear what he's thinking and kind of he reacts to what other people are saying and things like that, and that can be a lot of fun. And even in the trailer, there are definitely some fun moments. It just gets to be a bit much, especially because he's using this like cartoony, video game announcer voice, which you tell me is Archer guy. I don't know. I never watched Archer.
I mean, it's John H. Benjamin. He had Bob's Burgers, Archer.
Yeah, I've never watched any of that stuff. So
Okay.
I don't know. But and apparently at earlier like festival screenings, it still had just Bill Skarsgård's voice, just doing his own voiceover. And I kind of feel like I wish they had kept it that way because yeah, it's a funny little thing you can put in there, but as the movie goes on, it gets to be a bit much as it goes on. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It didn't quite reach the heights of everything I hoped it would be, or I thought it could be able to do. But if you're going and just look for fun, bloody action with a good dose of comedy thrown in, it's definitely going to fit the bill. I mean, I enjoyed it. I like Jessica Roth a lot. What we saw of her. Most of the time, she's got her a really cool looking motorcycle helmet outfit. You'll understand when you see the movie. It looks cool, but the problem is you're also thinking, that's her stunt double most of the time. At least for the first 2/3 of the movie. So I wish we got to see more of her. But yeah, So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on my Letterboxd because I did enjoy it, just not quite. It wasn't great, but it was enjoyable.
Did it? Because I know how excited you were for it. Would you consider this right where you were at, a disappointment, or exceeded?
Barely disappointed because I think it's like it pretty much was because I had like what I hoped it would be, and it didn't reach that, but it wasn't like bad. So it's kind of like it was good. It just wasn't everything. So
at least the trailers gave you a heads up on the Archer voice, so
you
knew what you were walking into.
No, and that, like I said, that is fun, especially at certain times. It works, but it's just like other times it's not. So I'd say it may have slightly disappointed me, but like overall, I don't find the movie disappointing. It just wasn't quite at the level I was hoping it would be. But it's still 3.5 stars.
Better or worse than Guns Akimbo and Boss Level?
So you know what? I compared it actually. The first thing I was thinking while watching this movie, it feels very much that same Guns Akimbo vibe to it. It feels like that same kind of movie, both in the characters and the style and the comedy and things like that. I would definitely say I enjoy Guns Akimbo more than this one. Boss Level. I put it probably even with Boss Level because Boss Level had some things about it like I really enjoyed and some things about it which I thought were kind of iffy as well. So I'd put it even with Boss Level just below Guns Akimbo.
Yes, that was my cheap plug, everybody, to get everyone to watch Guns Akimbo and Boss Level because they're both fucking great. That was me just trying to get them in there real quick.
Guns Akimbo, check that out.
Exactly. Is Guns Akimbo on anything right now? I know Boss Level's still Hulu. I'm gonna check real quick because we're telling people to watch this, and it's like, oh yeah, you have no way to watch it.
No, I mean it's Daniel Radcliffe, which we've talked many times about how we've enjoyed where his career has gone since Harry Potter because he just chooses fun, interesting projects. Samara Weaving, kind of before she kind of broke out, so she's in that movie, and it's another one that's got lots of violence, lots of blood, but definitely heavy dose of comedy to it.
Yeah. Guns Akimbo is on Fubo and Paramount Plus.
Okay,
so you guys can easily watch it if you got those things. Next, we had a horror movie come out last week. I was going to see it, but life finds a way, and I have not got to watch it yet. But Brian did get to watch it.
Oh,
what?
You still haven't seen this?
No, I still haven't got to see it yet.
Oh no.
And that is Abigail.
Abigail.
I hope to watch it some point here in the next, like honestly, by the time we shoot the next show, not the next show because the next show's our summer preview. By the time we do a next talk about, I will probably have seen it, and then I'll give you my input then. But yeah, you got to see Abigail. So what were your thoughts on Abigail?
Yeah, Abigail's another one that I was really looking forward to. It's done by Radio Silence. I forget the two guys' individual names. The other knows Radio Silence. They're the guys who directed Screams 5 and 6, and Ready or Not as well.
I remember, didn't we call this the Universal Dracula movie at the beginning of the year because we didn't know what the name of the title was?
It was Untitled Universal Dracula movie, or Untitled Universal Horror Movie. And then there was some like old article I found when they first announced this that said the working title was Dracula's Daughter, which kind of gave away things. And then it just finally got a name. I don't think we knew the name until we got a trailer for it, which was
we didn't. Yeah, it was. If anything, if it wasn't when the trailer got out, that it was within like the first like 2 days.
Yeah,
and then it came out. We're like, oh, okay, this is that movie. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. It was a trailer coming out for a movie called Abigail. Oh, who cares? It's another probably haunted doll movie or something. Like, oh wait, no, this is that movie. Okay, gotta watch that. Yeah, and it's got Melissa Barrera reuniting with them. It's got Dan Stevens, another person that we've always kind of promoted and liked.
Kevin Durand, who I fucking love.
Oh, Kevin Durand. Kevin Durand might be the best part of this movie. He is fun.
That makes me happy. And Catherine Newton, who 4 people that we all like. We all like all 4 people, like to the point where I'm sad that they're probably gonna get murdered in this movie. But I don't know. Brian.
Oh no, nobody dies in this movie.
That's Thanks.
Not true. That's not
even
true.
Even though the trailer gives away almost like every death, I feel, or they get fucked up just really, really bad.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito's in there in a small role. But yeah, it's got a great cast assembled. We like the directors behind it. It's a horror. I wouldn't call it a horror comedy, but it's a horror with a good dose of comedy, kind of like Ready or Not.
It looks like it's got a comedy too,
but there's a lot of comedy in it.
Yeah.
That's why I love their tone. I'm sad they aren't doing Scream, but we were happy then that Christopher Landon is going to do it. Oh no, wait, he's not doing it either.
No, we get Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, which I like Kevin Williamson, but I want to
not as much as them.
This, and I don't really want Neve Campbell back, but that's a whole other story. We'll get into it some other time. Yeah. I you know what I wish this movie? I wish this movie had not given away kind of the main twist of it.
That Abigail was a vampire?
Right. Because in a modern movie world, there's no way you can do that. You have to pitch this movie, and that's kind of the main crux of the story. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, look, they kidnapped a little ballerina girl. That's not a very interesting movie.
They could have easily done this trailer where they kidnapped Abigail, and you realize that the mansion they took her in had a creature in it, and not gave away that it was Abigail the whole fucking time. They could have done that. They easily could have done that.
They could have, but I think it makes it more interesting knowing. But I understand it's a necessity. It's kind of like when Terminator 2 first came out. If you watch the movie Terminator 2, there's like the moment when you're supposed to realize that he's there to protect John and he's not after John Connor. It's like supposed to be like, oh my gosh, this is a shocking moment. But everybody knew going into that oh, he's a good Terminator this time.
You honestly could have done a trailer where you made it theme like the T-1000 because he was a cop, was actually there to try to stop the Terminator from getting John, and then you go in here.
What? Well, that's how the movie, if you watch the movie, that's kind of how it builds up. Like, oh, they sent this guy back to protect him from Arnold's Terminator. But then they try to, they throw that big twist at you. And this movie's kind of the same way. If you watch the whole movie, it gives no indication. And the moment where it happens, when it's revealed that she's a little vampire, it's like, holy shit. And you can tell it's supposed to be this big shocking moment. But, obviously the whole audience already knows it. And I wish there was some way that I'd gone into this movie not knowing that, because it would have been a real cool moment. Because up until then, you have no idea that that's where this movie's going. It just seems like a whole different movie. I mean, there are more twists and turns as the movie goes on. There are definitely things that they have not revealed that are the directions the movie goes. But and for that, I'm very thankful, because I enjoyed the twists and turns. But it would have been so cool to watch this movie not knowing that. But it's a necessity of the modern day marketing of movies. Little girl who I've not seen anything. Apparently, she was in that Matilda the musical, which I didn't watch, even though I'm a musical guy. That one didn't interest me. I think she does a great job in this. I think the whole cast that we just mentioned, they're all fun. They're all interesting. I do think Kevin Durand is probably the most fun of them. He kind of plays like he's the muscle of the group. So
I mean, of course he is. Look at him.
Of course he is. But he kind of also plays like the big dumb guy, which is not something unusual for him to be playing. Yeah. But he gets to have a lot of fun with it. I enjoy him a lot in this movie. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else without getting into spoiler territory. I don't think I was disappointed by this movie. I think it kind of just met my expectations. It just didn't exceed them. It's like because it was fun, it was bloody. My score on Letterboxd, I keep going back and forth, but 3.5 to 4. I think it's going to settle down into 4 stars. Yeah, I can't really talk about a whole lot more.
You can't talk about why it didn't meet expectations or whatever because it was a spoiler or what?
Well, no, that wasn't because of spoilers. It just didn't kind of do anything to push it over that edge for me. There's
It
kind
didn't
of
hit that second. It didn't hit that next gear for you.
yeah, and there's some scenes where it kind of felt like as it goes on, because the movie once it starts getting bloody, it gets really bloody, and so it gets to a point where I think maybe you just kind of get a little numb to it. Like, oh, okay, there's more blood, and oh, okay, now she's tearing this person apart, and it's like, okay, what are we gonna bump to that next level kind of thing.
Or is it just rinse repeat, new scene, rinse repeat, new scene?
I wouldn't go that far, but I don't know why. It was never going to be like a 5-star movie for me. And that's why I said it's probably going to settle in at 4 stars because it was not disappointing to me in any way. It just, it met my expectations, which were already granted kind of high just based on the pedigree of the people involved. It just didn't exceed them.
Okay. You say about 3.5, but you're probably going to rest at a 4?
It's probably going to be at a 4, yeah.
And like I said, by the time we probably shoot our next episode of this, I will hopefully have seen it. And then I can review it. And because of then, it'll probably a little bit further down. We can actually probably go into some spoiler conversation with it.
Yeah.
The next review that talk about not meeting expectations. Alex Garland's Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
This was on my anticipated because Alex Garland. I love Alex Garland as a director. Ex Machina, Annihilation, I thought was phenomenal. And Brian kind of warned me at the beginning of the movie. He's like, or the beginning of the year, he's like, hey, man, it's like the cast is not anything great. I was like, well, I love Jesse Plemons. Yeah, but Kirsten Dunst. I was like, but it's Alex Garland with a Civil War aesthetic. Like, this is gonna be fucking great. And then the reviews were coming, and everyone was like, best film of the year, best film of the year, best film of the year. This is fucking amazing. And it's people that we actually like.
So like Brian's just being stupid again.
Well, or just you being kind of just negative Nancy, like you were with Dune and the Batman and shit.
But granted, I did go in knowing that I don't like Kirsten Dunst. I don't think she's a good actress, but. Yeah,
and this didn't help. This really didn't help me at all because it didn't really do anything to go. Oh, she was good. No, she's. Oh, sorry, I just went to a cough fit. This movie doesn't do anything to really make you like backtrack that at all. It doesn't. Civil War is, for the story we get, is it effective? Do they set out, I guess, to tell the story that they want to tell? Yes, they do. They instead of telling us about the fucking actual Civil War of what's going on or give us any fucking explanation of why everything's happening the way it is, they just go, no, we're just going to follow these press people who just want to drive around and take photos, not really interview anybody because they're just, if anything, they're just photographers. They're not really fucking press because they're not interviewing anyone.
The one wants to interview the president, but nobody else along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just basically them on a road trip for the most part, stopping at different areas where craziness happens. And my problem with it is, once again, I know you and I harp on when the movies completely stop to give exposition, but fuck, give us a little, please. Why is Texas and Florida, or why is Texas and California these powerhouses? What's going on with this Florida territory? What's going on with the in-between of the U.S.? You gave us nothing in this film.
I can tell you exactly why they gave you nothing.
What's that?
I was just frustrated. You I love being dropped in the middle of a world, but yeah, give us some information. But they don't give you any explanation as to how the world came to civil war, or even the issues that are just, at hand. Nothing.
You should already know.
And the whole big thing is like, how do California and Texas, who are so different in their ideologies, how do they team up to become the Western forces? I'll tell you why that happens is because they didn't want to offend the right and they didn't want to offend the left. So let's have them both be a part of it. So it's not like, we're not speaking out against like just the right-wing people that are the ones who broke off and they're the villains of the movie, or the left wing. Let's just have it be a mishmash so nobody can say this movie is pushing one certain agenda. And that's all it is. And this movie is like, it wants to play it safe. It wants to not offend anybody. So it doesn't want to raise any issues that you might take a position on. It doesn't want to pick a certain region that you might take a position on. And so what we're left with is just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. Whatever.
Yeah, so instead, we follow this crew. You got Kirsten Dunst, who's apparently like this really famous photographer reporter. You got Wagner Murrah, who I agree with Brian is basically Pedro Pascal light because they
Walmart
probably
Pedro Pascal. Yep.
yeah Walmart Pedro Pascal. Then you got Kaylee Spaney, call her more as like kind of like young Natalie Portman, but after The Professional. I thought she had more of that kind of look and kind of performance, which to me she was the highlight of the movie. I thought she was fantastic in the film for what it was. You got Nick Offerman as the president, who literally is like, 3 minutes of the fucking movie, which I was actually excited for his performance. I was like, that was his kind of, for the most part, was in the trailers. That was it. And then you got, what's his name? Stephen McKinley Henderson, who plays Sammy, who's a solid actor. Everything he's in, he's good. So I mean, and so it's just them kind of driving and looking at chaos. You got the one scene with Jesse Plemons, which once again is given away in the trailer, but it's also probably the most exciting, tense part of the fucking film. But you know what? We kind of already knew what was going to happen because the trailer kind of gives it away what's going to happen in the fucking trailer. Visually, yes, it looks great. That's Alex Garland's bread and butter.
It's filmed great, but honestly, this movie felt so small scale to me. It's like the final invasion of Washington. The Western forces finally are at the door of Washington. They're going to finally attack and, they're going to take over Washington. And there's like 3 tanks and a truck and 12 soldiers. It's like...
It definitely felt like an indie film.
Yeah, that's just it. It's the A24 version of a war film, yeah.
Yeah. And then the movie just kind of just ends. Just ends. And I'm sitting there watching this and I'm like, this movie's getting like best movie of the year feedback and like 5 stars, 4.5 stars. I'm like, I'm sorry, this movie's just kind of eh. And before you guys go, you just don't get it. No, we fucking get it. It follows the story of press and all this shit and how the world is and all that stuff. But when you don't give us any context to the world and why they're in the Civil War, is the president the bad guy or is he the good guy? Is Texas and California the bad guy or the good guy? We don't fucking know. What's going on with the Florida territory? Because I actually like had a map of how everything's broken up. Okay, cool. Why is the map broken up like this? What's this territory? What's this territory? You know what? Fucking let us read a newspaper, for fuck's sake. Have one person explain it. I honestly thought when they went into that one town that was like kind of like nothing, and then he's like, "You do know there's a civil war going on, right?" No, I didn't. It's like, but I figured, okay, here's where we're gonna get some exposition. No, if anything, we get let's dress up. Okay, it's just.
I'm surprised it has some pop song there and like a dress up montage.
It's just. This is that movie that's going to be right as of right now is the clear front runner for most overrated film of the year for the Movie Crusaders Awards. There's nothing else even in. I know you're going to fight for Dune Part 2, but fuck you, no.
Dune Part 2 is I don't love it as much as other people, but it's not near the level of overrated as something like this. Yeah.
I don't get it. I will give it a. Granted, for me, it's a low score. But once again, it looks good. Like that's one thing. Like you get these actors like Michael Bay, great with action shots. Don't give him a script. Don't let him write. He's horseshit. Zack Snyder, who we're gonna be talking about here in a little bit, can make things look good. Don't let him write the script. Don't let him do that. Just make him visually be like a cinematography shot guy. There are guys out there that make shit look good. Alex Garland is one of those guys. You could take something like this that looks small scale. It still looks great. But at the end of the day, this story is just like this is what we got. This is it. Because I'm ultimately disappointed to the max to it. Yeah. There's no bad performance. I know you're not a fan of Kirsten Dunst. She's not bad in the movie. She's just okay. She's
just there. Yeah,
she's there. Everyone is just kind of there. I would say Kaylee Spaney.
Yeah.
I think she's the best part of the movie, but that's because she, if anything, gets the most fucking character development in the entire film. So naturally, she's the one you latch onto as a character because she's the one that actually has a growth through the fucking film. But at the end of the day, this movie was just kind of. I feel like I kind of wasted my time.
Yeah, I think that it wasted a great premise because I think the idea of like showing like a news, especially in our current like political and cultural climate, I think that the idea of making a movie about another civil war and where things might end up going is a great idea. And I talked about in my review how I wish this is one of those twin movies like we talked about in a previous episode of the show, because it's like with Armageddon and the Deep Impact and the Tombstone, the Wyatt Earp, and the Dante's Peak Volcano. Two movies kind of come out on the same subject, but like with a different style to them.
Yeah.
I wish this was one of those cases because I love this concept, but I don't like the way they did it at all. I think they just wasted it. So it's like I wish there was like more of a non A24 version of this movie, which could like about it in like a new Civil War that I think could have been so interesting, could have been so well done, but this isn't it for me.
So what did you end up giving it score wise?
No, I still gave it a 3 stars, which is kind of, it's right in the middle for me because it's not a bad movie. It's definitely not a good movie. The performances are all fine. Nobody does a bad job, but nobody impresses me. So for me, everything about this movie is just mid.
Exactly, mid.
Yeah.
I was kind of in the same boat. I gave it a 59, which is a 3-star. It's not something I'm going to remember 3 weeks from now, except because everyone's fucking praising it, so they keep bringing it back to my brain. But it's one of those things where it's just like, I agree. Performances aren't bad. Visually, everything looks good. It's the script, it's the story, and it's the small scale of it all that they could have done so much more with it that ultimately just makes it a huge disappointment. And yeah, it's just mid. It's super mid. Staying on the mid train, I didn't tell you I watched this. I finally watched Monkey Man.
Oh.
I don't understand why everyone's so crazy about this movie either.
Before you go into your thoughts on it, because I think I already gave mine a previous.
You did on the last episode. You did your.
It's like I completely. I'm not gonna feel bad about your review because I enjoyed this movie because I think the action scenes I thought were very well done. I like Dev Patel in it. I think that he has some direction potential, things like that. But there were definitely parts of this movie where it's like the entire second act, it's like lol.
I was dozing out watching.
I think I literally dozed off once in the middle too.
I was falling asleep during this movie. First off, the beginning premise took way too long to get into the mix. Like when he's fighting, I was like, okay, cool. But I know this movie's not about the fighting, which actually had way more of the kind of, it's not cage fighting, but had way more than I expected. I actually expected a lot less. But I didn't give a shit. Dev Patel didn't give me one reason to care about his character. I dozed off in the middle of the like cop chase. I dozed off during that. Like I just remember he was like running. And then I dozed off, and then all of a sudden, like he like crashed in like a river or something. I was like, I don't even know how we got here, because this movie did so little to make me care. And that's not, granted, he directed it, but I just. And then you have where it starts to go fantastical, where like he's opening his chest and shit, and I'm just like,
yeah,
I can't tell if this movie wants to be John Wick or if it wants to be Ung Bak or if it just wants to be something entirely different, but I don't. And then you keep doing the flashbacks with like his mom and him as a kid. And I'm just like, I know this is supposed to be layered with stuff, and it's supposed to add to the character, and it's supposed to give you some meaning. But I'm sorry, Dev Patel's performance didn't really win me over. I know he's better than that. I know he has so much in him in terms of performances. It didn't do much for me. The action sequences, they're fine. I will admit the last like ditch where he goes into the final battle stuff, I thought that was good, but it just, yeah, I was just kind of, this felt very mid to me too, like Civil War. I gave it a better score than Civil War because at least
it better not be as low as Civil War.
No, it tries to do something. It could have been I was watching it at the wrong time of the day. I was tired when I watched this. Maybe I shouldn't have been tired when I watched it. But you know what? This movie wasn't quiet. It was fucking loud and noisy and colors for so to make me doze off during that's saying something. But at the end of the day, I gave it a 64, which is still a 3-star. I got excited for it because Brian was like, it's actually really, really good. And I watched it. I was just like, No, this was boring to me. I was like, movies shouldn't be boring. And there are movies where there's not much context for story, but it's still fun. I mean, hell, The Night Comes for Us. I think it tells a great story, but for people who don't want to read the subtitles, it's just like, oh yeah, people fighting. But you know what? The fighting was fucking exciting through that shit, and it kept me awake the whole way through. Monkey Man was putting me to sleep. I was more interested in what's his name? It's not Charlito. Is it Charlito? Yeah. How do you say his first name? Charlto. I was more interested in that character because of like where I was like, is this character a bad guy or is he? Oh no, he's just a fucking promoter guy. I was more interested in that story.
He's also in Boy Kills World.
Yeah, he is. I was more interested in the story of him going up the ranks of becoming like the champ of the cage kind of fighting, and not at all about this taking down like the Indian mafia and stuff. Like I didn't care. Just did not care. Next, we got another movie that you and I were both like, oh, this is intriguing. This is Zack Snyder's Star Wars. And then we got the first film, and I think you and I both were in agreement this was basically set up the movie. It basically was like, hey, let's get a crew together, but let's not give you any reasons to care about these people. Let's not try to give any of these characters character development outside of the lead. Let's not do anything. And then let's have a big action sequence at the end of movie. Oh, we'll do it all in part 2. Well, here's part 2. Rebel Moon part 2, The Scargiver. I want to ask this real quick. And forgive me if I forgot. Did they ever announce that there was going to be a third fucking film when they came out? Because I thought the whole premise was part 1 and part 2.
They didn't announce a third. They announced that this is a 2-part movie. They announced the Rebel Moon part 1 and 2. And Zack Snyder said, I have ideas for where this world can go far beyond that. I could make several more of these movies, things like this. But they never announced a number 3. No.
Okay. Because I'm watching this, I'm like, is this supposed to have a third movie? Because I have never heard anything about a third film. And then when the end credits happen, I'm like, so I guess we're getting a third movie? There's no way that we're getting a third movie of this. Because this movie's also, in my eyes, not good. It's not good. What the fuck? Zack Snyder, how do you fuck this up, dude?
I'm gonna say one thing that's a comparison that's gonna piss you off.
Oh, you already said it to me, and I wanted to slap you across the screen when you said it to me.
No, what he did at the end of this movie is no different. The exact same thing that Dune Part 2 did. They announced Dune as Dune's Part 1 and Part 2. And yes, there's additional books, but they're like, oh, maybe we'll make those, but we're going to make Dune Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2 ends, battle ends. Oh, look, the army's coming. Oh, look, we're about to enter the real war. And they leave it a cliffhanger for a third movie that has to happen.
I don't disagree.
However you feel about the quality of the film, they both do the exact same thing at the end.
I don't disagree with that. But here's the difference. Dune 2 actually made you give a shit about the fucking characters. They built the characters up through the first film into the second film, storyline wise and script wise. Dune 2 is like on a fucking other level than Rebel Moon.
Dune 2 is the better movie in terms of filmmaking and action performances, things like that. I would watch Rebel Moon 10 times before I'd watch Dune again. Rebel Moon, it's like, okay, Rebel Moon Part 1 is basically assembling the team, the movie, right? And then a little action sequence at the end. Rebel Moon Part 2 is basically training montage, the movie, with an action scene at the end. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a great movie. I don't even know if I could go as far as calling it a good movie. It's almost something I qualify as a guilty pleasure movie, because when I look at the movie overall, I'm kind of like, it's not very, in the story and especially the story, and then kind of some of the dialogue and stuff is really cheesy. they take a break for about 20 minutes in the middle, say, everybody, let's give our exposition.
Oh my god, dude,
let's bring this whole movie to a screeching halt, and we're gonna go around one circle, and each of you tell a little 10-minute segment. It's
fucking Rebel Moon. I don't give a shit. Spoiler alert. We're fucking spoiling this movie. Let's waste the first 20 minutes of this movie slow-mo graining farming. Why Great doing the grain and slow. Not Zack Snyder. Fuck you.
Zack Snyder
You don't
does
have to
slow-mo,
slow-mo
all
that
kinds of
shit.
things, like little things like that. In every movie he does this slow-mo. This time it happens to be great. I admit, I'll be the first to tell you, it's way overused as slow-mo. But the fact this grain is just like, that just happens to be the subject this time. Most times it's like slow-mo of whatever else, yeah.
Let me do a slow-mo of me tossing grain in the air. Let me do slow-mo of me cutting the grain. Dude, fuck you, man. You don't have to do it. Do slow-mo of the training. Do slow-mo of something else. Don't slow-mo. Oh, let's slow-mo these kids running around and playing with each other. Oh,
I would rather watch Zack Snyder slow-mo than John Woo slow-mo. He's somebody who overuses even more than Zack Snyder.
I'm not gonna argue that because
Yeah.
John Woo's slow-mo and style shooting is nowhere near Zack Snyder's. I would say Zack Snyder makes everything look good. Good job. Oh, hey, Cora. You remember Cora, Sophia Botella? You remember what she talked about in the whole fucking first film? Let's have her double down and just keep saying the same shit over and over and over again. You guys don't know what I did. Like at the very end of the fucking film when they're all like doing the ceremony thing at the end. You guys, I don't deserve honor or bravery. Titus, you don't know what I did. Yeah, I fucking know who you are. No, you don't. Yeah, I fucking do. I don't care. It's like, that was the writing. I'm paraphrasing, but tell me that I'm lying, that basically is what that scene was.
Oh, no, I agree.
Like, what the fuck? And then
No,
it's like, oh, hey, guys.
Like, I fully admit this movie's fault in terms of its characters and its story and its dialogue, things like that. But it's like, you know, it things look pretty, things blow up nice, and I enjoy this movie more than I enjoy Dune, which to me was just kind of a slog to get through, and it was just kind of dreary. But this one at least, I am excited.
How did Zack Snyder make a Star Wars Magnificent Seven so fucking boring? Because that's what it is. It's Magnificent Seven.
Well, he hasn't even hidden the fact that basically he wanted to do a Star Wars film. They said, nah, no thanks. And so he's like, fine, I'll just go make my own film. He's made no.
Oh, no, I'm not saying he
but
hid
it's like
that.
so evident. It's so evident. And yes, it's Magnificent Seven. It's actually a movie called Battle Beyond the Stars. This is almost even more a direct ripoff of. So
Ed's is it Skirrin? Skrine. Ed Skrine and Jaimin Hansu, who we enjoy. They're the best parts of these fucking movies.
Oh, Jaimin does a great job, yeah.
Jaimin's great in everything. Like that's why you cast Jaimin in movies like this, he's the one character that you actually give a shit about in this movie. And Ed Skrine, he's the one guy who understands the fucking assignment. I want to say, I don't think I've ever hated a fucking character more for just being fucking worthless than Gunnar, however the fuck you want to say his name. He's the most worthless, pointless fucking character in a movie that I think you know who he rivals as the most pointless, worthless fucking character of all time is the fucking friend from It Follows. That's where I go from this. What was the point of him?
We know how much you love that movie. Yeah.
Exactly. You know my level of hatred for this character that I'm going to bring that fucking thing up. What was the point? He brought nothing to the table. Also, did they ever establish that they were a couple in the first film? I don't think they did.
No, they kind of hinted at attraction, but it wasn't until this movie where they kind of.
But like in his first 5 minutes, they're like, I could never be anywhere without you. Oh, I love you. Oh, we're in love. No. Where the fuck was that story? There was no story for that. Also, just random guys. There was that one guy who does the bomb. That's all I'm gonna say. The bomb. They were treating him like he was this like important character. I'm like, I'm looking at my girlfriend. I'm like, did we just forget that this character existed? Like, do we know who he is? She goes, I don't remember this character in any of the film. I was like, but yet they're focusing on him like he's an important character. And same thing with the other dude, who was like, he gets kicked off the ship. That's the way I'll word that. He got kicked off the ship by Ed. And I was like, he's acting like he was more of a badass than Gunnar was. Gunnar just is the character that just started everything, basically is like, oh, poor me, I can't believe I fucked up so bad through the whole film. He does one good redeeming thing at the end of the first movie, and then this movie he starts the war, which killed so many of his people. When Cora could just gone up there and probably taken care of shit herself. She probably could have, but he's like, oh no, I ain't gonna let you go. I love you. I'm gonna start the fucking war and everything. And then he just kind of tags along with her and then fucking dies. And she's supposed to be like mourning. I was like, he did nothing. He did nothing through this whole fucking film. What was the goddamn point of that character? Nothing at all. There were so many character points where someone was like, you could have just done that. You could have just done that. Hey, here's this one dude standing in the middle of a battlefield against 20 other people. Let's shoot around that character because we can't kill him yet for plot. It's like there's this movie was dog shit. But in spite of it, it still looks really good. It still looks really good. Don't even get me started on the fucking samurai character. Let's force this random ass kid and her to have a story just so that we give a flying fuck about her when we get to that one point in the movie. What? No. She's a fucking samurai with the lightsabers.
They just want to have lightsabers. I don't know why they had to throw in the whole kid thing. Yeah.
Like I was just like, I told her, I was literally telling my girlfriend, I was like, they're throwing this whole thing in just so that way you give a shit when she eventually dies. And guess what happened? Exactly fucking that. No, this movie, I don't give a shit about a third film. I don't. I am not looking forward to third film. I would not care if they don't make a third film. If they make another one, I'd probably watch it. But like I said, I enjoy it. I'm not saying it's a good movie. I'm just saying while I watched, I'm like, oh, it looks cool. It's enjoyable to watch for me. I didn't hate it clearly the same extent you did. But it's I definitely a guilty pleasure, but not something I think is good or love. Yeah. For it to be a guilty pleasure, you actually have to have pleasure in watching said movie. And I don't think you did.
You know what really bugs me is because like Chaman Hansu actually gets to shine more in this. It's almost parts of this movie seem more like he's the star of this movie. I think he finally gets to kind of have a major role in this thing. But Sofia Boutella is somebody who I think she just has a presence to her that I think that she could be really great in the right movie, and she's just never found that movie.
I'm sorry, I'm going to say this too. Once she cut her hair, I couldn't tell her and the army guy apart. You know, the one guy who like is like still pretending he's part of the bad guys, but he's actually with them. Once she cut her hair, I'm like, can you tell them apart? I was like, because I think they look exactly the fucking same. And my girlfriend was like, actually, outside of looking at her boobs, no, I can't tell them apart. I was like, thank you. I just want to make sure I wasn't the only fucking one who couldn't tell these two apart. Not that they're never in the same scene together, which probably for a good fucking reason, because they look exactly the goddamn same. I do want to give a shout out to my girlfriend's favorite character. Granted, she loved Titus as well, because Jaimin Hansu is great. Her favorite character was Princess James, who she called him Princess because he had a crown and a cape, and he got to come out and be all like, I'm going to mess these bitches up. Anthony Hopkins. The whole time I'm watching this movie, you know who he kept reminding me of? He kept reminding me of, I'm blanking on the character name, but like the ogre from 300. I'm just going to be in the cliffs, and I'm just going to watch all the Spartans that I want to be a part of. And then at the very end, instead of fucking them over, he actually saves the day. But because that's what he's doing. He's just spying on them the whole fucking time. It's like, dude, just go down there and fucking fight. What are you doing? But Anthony Hopkins was fine in the film. We still have no real reason why his character does what he does. Also, this is up there for, it's either going to be one of the funniest moments of the year for me at an award show or the what the fuck. The violinists in the flashback for the king of the killers.
Whatever happens, don't stop playing.
Dude, we are fucking rocking this right now. Don't you stop. What, dude, they just killed the king. I don't care, man. We're
play more ominous music. Oh,
dude, they're gonna turn on her. Dude, amp up the intensity. Dude, I was dying.
It's also, I want to watch an action scene where like the orchestra is walking around behind the star doing the score with them.
It's still different than that scene from Family Guy with Stewie following the fat guy. Stop it!
You know, I thought of a movie. There's a movie called "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker," which is kind of a spoof of like blaxploitation movies, things like that. It's Keenan Ivory Wayans and fun people. But there's this one guy walking along, and it's like, and this guy's walking around behind him with a guitar, doing like the Shaft theme song kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that? Oh, that's my theme music, and it's like following around the whole time.
But yeah, the violinist, I was like, this is either the funniest or the dumbest fucking thing in this movie. I can't tell if I love this or I hate it, but I just love that, like, as soon as like they decide, oh, we're gonna turn on her, you can see the violinist go, dude, intense as shit. And they're fucking I'm just like, I really wrote it down on our nominations for both because I can't tell where your head was gonna be at for it. It's like this is either fucking hilarious or this is the fucking Bears in the conference room. I can't tell which one yet, but it's one of those. I already know what your score is, so go ahead and tell me what you gave this movie.
You know, I waver between 3 and 3.5. I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm still on the fence for it.
Half?
Maybe.
I feel like my score's too high.
There are things about it, like I will give it, you know, it's like a 3.25 for me. So I mean, I suppose at the moment I'll probably call it a 3, but it's like there's enough about it that I enjoyed that I couldn't, you know, it is what it is.
The reason, first things first, I know my score's too high, but I'm trying to find positives because I gave the first one 3 stars because I was like, I'm giving this 3 stars in anticipation that the second one's going to be better. The second one's not better in my eyes. If anything, it doubles down on what was wrong about the first film, and then it's like it almost tries to do like fucking Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, hey, the first hour, let's fix what we did wrong in the first movie, which is exposition dump all these characters. Like you said, let's say each take 5 to 10 minutes to explain why we're the way we are. When you could have done that in the whole fucking first film and saved all that shit. You know, and you could have taken that time to build why these people in this town care about you. Like when the girl's like, hey, I made this for all you people that I've only known for like 2 days here. And it's like, cool, that would have mattered at all if you had any time spent with character development between these characters outside of just slow-mo putting grain in the air and shit. But visually it looks good. Ed Skrein, I enjoyed the hell out of. Jaimin Hansu, loved. Sophia Boutella, even though her character's fucking just, you don't know what I did. Yes, I don't. She's still good in the movie. Fuck Gunner. And Anthony Hopkins as Princess James, I'm all for. So it's a 49. It's a 2.5. But it probably deserves a 1.5 for actually what it is. But it's a 2.5.
Not that low. There's no way.
It is fucking dog shit. But the stuff that works. But there's so much that doesn't work in this movie.
And it's
I know I'm probably about to watch. What's that?
And it's more rewatchable than Dune Part 2.
I've never disagreed with you more. I gave you that is Morbius is better than the Batman level bad.
Morbius is better than Batman.
See, you're just doing that to troll and piss me off.
I'm not.
You're doing that to piss me off, and I'm not gonna take the bait. Our last movie review. We both got to see this early.
Kind of.
Brian, kind of. So we were talking about this on our last show that we were both going to see the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare a week early. Except Brian had to leave halfway through his viewing of it. I was telling Brian, I go, this is because Brian lives in Illinois, I live in Louisiana. I was like, Brian, this is the first time I think ever that I know I'm exactly in the exact same spot you are right now. We're both in a theater watching this movie at the exact same time. I go, it's just weird to know that I know exactly where you are. Until the end of the movie, I'm like, are we shooting a review for this tonight? You're like, actually, no. I only got to see half the movie because I had to leave for a
family emergency come up, and I had to like leave the movie halfway through. And it wasn't like I could go back the next night and see it because it was like previous. I had to wait until this weekend to see it.
So we intended on shooting an actual review for this last week, but we didn't get to. And granted, I get it. I had to do the same thing for Ghostbusters. You saw Ghostbusters. I got about halfway through Ghostbusters, and I had to leave because of a family emergency. Then I had to wait. So I totally get it. But we're talking about that movie now. I feel like we got a Rebel Moon situation here because I think I loved this movie way more than Brian did. I fucking love this movie. I had a ball with this movie. But Brian and I both are in an agreement of what this movie is, which is what, Brian?
It's the movie that Inglourious Basterds wanted to be.
And that is coming from people who fucking love Inglourious Basterds.
Let's pump the brakes on it.
Okay, you like it. I fucking love it. It's my
here's the thing. Here's my thing is just briefly, Inglourious Basterds, I think, was a really good movie when it was about the bastards, but they seem like such a small part of that movie. It's like they're the title of the movie, and most of the movie is about, you know, the girl in the theater and all that. Now, granted, Hans Landa, Christoph Waltz was the best part of that movie by a mile, and he was part of that storyline. But the movie we went there wanting to see was about the Inglourious Basterds. This movie is essentially about them. Let me rephrase that.
a group
This
like
movie is a lot more about them. It kind of has the same problem where it goes off in a second storyline with a different female character, which kind of there's some lulls that go on there. But this one is a lot more of what we want it to be, of seeing this ragtag group of kind of rebellious soldiers.
This is the sister movie that you were talking about, Civil War. But it was just done like a decade later.
It just came out, 15 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the fun and glory. Like I said, Inglourious Basterds is my favorite Tarantino film. I fucking love it. It's one of my favorite films. This is the fun Inglourious Basterds. This is the non-serious, non-dramatic Inglourious Basterds. And you know what? I fucking loved it just like I loved Inglourious Basterds. I know I talked too much Rebel Moon, so I'm gonna let you take more of the reins this before I go, just so that way I don't go into another coffin fit. So go ahead with your review of this.
No, so like I said, when I saw especially the first half of this movie, it gave me exactly what I wanted out of this movie, which was you took this group of soldiers who I love this cast with Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson and Henry Golding and even Isaac Gonzalez, though she's kind of the one off in a separate storyline. Alex Pettyfer and Hero Fiennes. He's Ray Fiennes' nephew, if I understand correctly.
He plays young Voldemort in Half-Blood Prince, for anyone who knows that.
And I love them, and I love the kind of the tone of the movie, because they're like, they're obviously a bunch of kick-ass soldiers. You get to see how badass they are and what they can do, but there's also a nice dose of comedy in there, just in their interactions and their personalities, things like that, and you really enjoy them. For me, the standout of this movie is Alan Richardson, just simply because he's a complete badass, and he gets to have plenty of fun. And because in Jack Reacher, he got to do that, but he was very serious, and even when he was like having funny moments, he was still kind of being a very serious person. And this one, he gets to be a little more over the top, enjoyable, and just in watching his physicality and watching the way he moves and the way he kicks ass, it's like I loved him. I can't wait for him to get some kind of major action thing of his own. There's been a lot of people saying he should be the new Batman. I would love it if he was the new Batman.
A lot of people are pissed off at that. I'm not against that.
Oh, I would love it. And he's even come out and said he's like not one of these people like, I guess if they want, he's come out and said, I want to be Batman. Like, James Gunn, if you're watching this, give me a call. I want to be Batman.
He has the persona that he can be Bruce Wayne, and he's got the physique already that he could be Batman. Yeah. I don't hate that at all. The
only reason I could see them not doing it is because then Batman would make Superman look like a little pussy if they stood next to each other.
You're not wrong.
But at the same time, Superman's strength doesn't come from giant muscles. He's not human. He's not out of this world. So he just has that strength out. So I mean, even Christopher Reeve was not a muscular guy, but
he wasn't. He was just tall.
But he also didn't have to stand next to Batman. So,
but at that time, Batman was fucking Adam West, so he still looked good.
So I don't think it'll happen, but I would love it if he was Batman. But I loved him in this movie. The rest of the cast, I think, all does a great job. Isaac Gonzalez, who I've always, just been in love with, and I also think she's a good actress. I'm not saying just physically only. I do think that when we go off to her storyline, the movie does slow down quite a bit, and it's not nearly as interesting to me. I kind of wish they would stick with kind of the main group, but I mean, it all comes together in the end. I think she does a good job. So I didn't have a complaint about any performance in this movie. I didn't have any complaint about, the action, the humor in this movie. I really liked. So overall, it's pretty much everything I hoped it would be. Again, this is another one that did not exceed my expectations, but I'd say it met them. I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars on my Letterboxd. If anything, it was just pacing issues a little bit. That's all.
It exceeded my expectations. I expected to have fun, but I expected the story to kind of be a little weak. The story, granted, it's not to the extent of what Inglourious Basterds is story-wise, but it's not trying to be. It knows exactly the movie that it wants to be, and it goes out and it sets out to be the story that exactly it is, which is 4 or 5 guys. Well, there's more once you throw in the other people that we get in the rest of the film. But we get Henry Cavill having a fucking ball. Al Richardson having a fucking ball. Henry Golding having a fucking ball. Cary Elwes. I love Cary. And him being in it was icing on the cake for me. And once again, that scene where you first get to meet Henry and they're in the room and stuff. Also, I didn't know that guy sitting down who he takes the lighter from was Ian Fleming, the guy who created James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that was that character that was playing that. Isaac Gonzalez having fun. She gets to sing as well. Damn good job, too.
Yeah, she's released some albums in the past. Yeah.
Alex Pfeiffer. Is it Pfeiffer or Pfeffer?
Pettyfer.
Pfeiffer. I always heard that he was a huge prick, which is why no one ever wanted to cast him in anything. He was fun in this. Henry Golding was fun in this. Ray finds his kid or cousin.
No.
Hero. Also awesome first name, buddy. Being called Hero. He was fun in this. I mean, he was driving me crazy because I couldn't fucking tell who he reminded me of. He looked actually kind of like a young Josh Hartnett in the movie.
I can see it.
The action's fun. It is funny. I love the interactions between everyone in this. I love that one of the Inglourious Bastards is actually the bad guy Nazi in this movie. I thought that was funny as well, keeping the Bastards connection to it. I also, for the most part, was actually kind of intrigued that the Nazis didn't look like Nazis in this because they were all kind of in Navy uniforms the whole time. They didn't have like the swastikas. Is there even a swastika in this movie? I don't think there is.
I'm sure there is.
There
is. It's just not super prominent.
But it's not like a fucking focal point either. So I love that.
No, there's definitely like on flags in the background or on pins on the.
Yeah, but it's not like bam, bam, bam in your face like that. But I had a blast watching this movie. The action's brutal when it needs to be. It's funny when it needs to be. Yes, it does slow down with Isa and oh god, what's his name? Babs. I am not gonna say that last name. Heron.
Asalamualaikum.
I apologize, dude. I apologize, but yes, it slows down the movie, but I actually did like their story. I enjoyed their story for what it was, and you kind of had to have the little slow moments. Do I think that Isa Gonzalez should have had a little bit more of a badass moment near the end because you kind of like teased that she was a badass, but then she really didn't get to a point. I mean, she did. She had one badass moment. But I kind of expected her to have a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more because I just wanted Isa to have a kick-ass scene outside of just looking fucking gorgeous throughout the entire film, which she does. But I had a big smile on my face the entire time watching this movie. And
the only thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just thought of one thing that kind of made me. I didn't take away from the movie for me, but it kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit. Is the Stormtrooper syndrome, because like when they're pulling away on a boat. I'm not gonna give any trailers.
None of them got hit.
Spoilers. Every shot they shoot is mowing somebody down. Every shot, even with a rifle, every shot they shoot is killing somebody. Meanwhile, there's like 100 guys all shooting at them, and they're just standing there. Nothing's hitting them. Eventually, one or two of them get like little light wounds.
Granted, in not that this is going to defend it, but the Nazis are shooting basically in the dark at a boat in the dark. So they really aren't. All they're seeing is the muzzle flashes. They're actually looking. Like they're looking at like lights and fire and shit, so they have a better view of the Nazis than they do.
They knocked out the lights.
I do think but by that time there was explosions and shit, so they had fire in the background. I think through that whole final battle, I think only one dude died on their side because it was like a point blank gunshot, like when they were in the ship. It was one of the Prince's guys. And I think only one dude on their side dies.
Yeah, so, and then like one or two of them got like little flesh wounds.
Yeah, they got flesh wounds and stuff, but none of them actually got legit like killed.
Like I said, that didn't take away from the movie for me. It's just something I observed.
Not that at all.
I gotta say, after this and Covenant, I think Guy Ritchie is Sean's new favorite director.
I literally told that to my girlfriend. I was like, I am not excited to see this movie because I can't stand Guy Ritchie. But not even that. Go even before that. I liked Aladdin as well, and you're telling me that I would like The Gentleman.
I want you to watch The Gentleman. I know that it being a crime film, it seems a lot closer to like Snatch and Lock, Stock and some of the stuff that you don't like.
Which both of those films, I don't hate those films. I just think they're wildly overrated and overblown out of proportion. Much like how you feel about Dune, I feel that way about those.
I feel that you should watch The Gentleman because, I've only started the series, but I enjoy the series as well. But the movie I think is a lot of fun. You should check that one out next.
I will. I'm sure I'll have to check it out at some point. But yeah, did Guy Ritchie? Because I'll even say this again. You know why I'm liking these Guy Ritchie movies? Because he's not doing his stupid Guy Ritchie shit that I don't like. He's not doing the quick up fast forwards, the jarring shit that he does in like he did in Sherlock Holmes and other things. The reason why I'm liking Guy Ritchie is because he's not being Guy Ritchie. And that's why I'm liking him. Just much like you said that you're thinking that the latter half of M. Night Shyamalan is better than it was in his earlier stuff. I'm in the same way with Guy Ritchie. I'm liking his later stuff than his early stuff, which is what everyone wants to praise. It's the exact same thing with us. But yeah, I loved this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. I'm actually giving this an 85. And like we were talking about on on chat the other night. Yes, last year was the year of meh. Everything was just kind of it's okay. It's what it is. This year, I think, is the year of it's solid, it's good, it's not great. This right now is the first movie outside of Dune that made me go, I fucking love this movie. And I've seen more movies at this point this year than I did at this point last year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like, it's between a 60 and like 80. Like, it's good. It's not anything that's going to be noticeable by the end of the year. This movie is an 85. It's not going to be in the top 10 at the end of the year. I hope not, because if it is, oh my god, we're in a very
I know we have another 2 months left before we do our mid-year show. But it's like I think there's never going to be a year with more difference between my mid-year and my end of year thing, because like there's been a lot of movies this year that I've really liked, but I look at the list, I'm like, none of those feel like top 10 of the year material to me. It's like I think like everything I've seen is going to be like my 11 through 20.
Or even into the 30s. It's like I feel like there's a lot of solid films, but nothing that's outright like Argyle is my number 3 right now, and Argyle definitely has its faults, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And then there's this, and then there's Dune, and Dune is Dune, which your thought on that is we just heard that, but that's the only film that's gotten higher than an 85 this year. This is the second highest score I've given this year. And I loved this movie. I know it's not like this fucking amazing film, but you know what? It did exactly what it set out to do. It left me entertained. I would say this is a guilty pleasure, but I actually think this movie has no real faults to it. It set out to do what it wanted to do. It wasn't trying to be a best film of the year. It just wanted to have 5 guys go out there, kill a bunch of Nazis, have fucking fun, and enjoy while they're doing it. And the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, I hate the fucking title of this movie, sets out and does exactly that. It is fun to watch. And if you watch this movie and you don't find fun in this, I don't know what to tell you, man, because this was a fun action film to watch. And everyone is having a blast playing these roles and watching the movie. Next one, we're gonna go to TV. It's our weekly or bi-weekly review of X-Men 97 because we fucking love this series. I don't feel like this review is going to be nearly as long as others.
No, I think this is going to be a brief coverage on this one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So this movie, this episode, I know is titled "Life, Death, Part 2," which I know was supposed to be.
You immediately went,
Well, because it's the whole thing with Storm and Forge and things like that, which I know is kind of important to her character and the journey she goes on and stuff like that. But I was like, I don't know if I need to see. Can't this take place off screen? I don't know. Or
I don't know if I care enough to want to watch it.
But then they essentially split this show again. I mean, they'll not half and half like it did the first part. It is kind of going back and forth between the two stories, where you had the story with Storm and Forge, which. Fine, it's what it is. Again, it did not make for very exciting television, honestly, but I didn't dislike it. It was kind of like there's other stories I'd rather they focused on. And then there was the whole story with Charles Xavier and Lilandra and the Shi'ar Empire, things like that. And it's definitely my least favorite episode of the series so far. It's not a bad episode. It's just one of those things that's just focusing on things I don't care about, characters I don't really care so much about, and honestly, I struggle to have much more to say about this episode because I mostly was just kind of ambivalent towards it. It's like I want to see where the story goes from here, but this is not where I want the focus to be. And honestly, that's all I have to say about it.
The best way I could describe this episode is it is right there with Stranger Things season 2.
That was episode 8 or 9. We're just like, yeah.
When the episode before it ends with the Demogorgons climbing up the hole about to attack Hawkins' lab. And you're like, oh shit, next episode. And the next episode is 11 out in Chicago dressing like a punk, meeting, 7 or 8, whatever the fuck her sister is.
The other one, yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck are we watching? Like, I want to go back to Hawkins. I want to see what the fuck's happening. And we have to go through 50 plus minutes of this storyline, and it's become the most hated episode in Stranger Things. It's actually not a bad episode. It's the placement of that episode.
And also the fact that it had essentially nothing to do with the rest of the show.
Well, at least so far. it could come back around in this last season. It would make more sense for it to come back around this last season. But as of right now, it is considered the lowest rated episode of the entire series because it takes you especially for a binge show. X-Men 97, you just did that. You ended the last week's episode with this. Well, now it's 2 weeks ago because the new episode is about to come up here, I think, tonight. You had an insane episode before this with the potential of death of Magneto and Gambit and all these other characters.
World-ending things happening, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what do? You give us an episode about Storm and Forge, which I'm sorry, it might be her voice. Storm talking is like melatonin to me. You just put me to sleep. And then you have the philosophical conversations with Xavier and is it Shiran? Who's his girlfriend?
Lilandra.
There's Shiran. Is that the people? Like I know, or is that
the Shi'ar? The Shi'ar is name is
Shi'ar. The Shi'ar people. I like you. I don't care. I don't care. It's just, and then you got the whole point where like they're fighting, and then he turns it into a classroom, and I'm just like, even now you just made it even more boring by doing this. And I don't care about the Stormforge storyline. I just want to go back to fucking X-Men. What my question is
so Storm just magically gets her powers back just because she decided she wanted to. She's like, okay, just all of a sudden.
It basically made
the only thing stopping me was myself.
Yeah,
okay, if you say so. But how come she can suddenly get her powers back, and then it makes the rest of her hair grow back out and changes her costume? It's like what?
Because it's animation and it works that way.
So the movie can happen.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's just, I agree. You basically just did Stranger Things season 2, episode 8, I believe was the episode. And that's not a good thing. Like I said, the episode's not bad. I just don't give a shit because you left us on such a cliffhanger for the episode prior. They used to make this
episode was in the original. If this is in the original X-Men animated series, they did this episode, you'd think nothing of it. It's a one-off episode in a collection, in a season that has like 23 episodes or whatever they had per season back then.
But we have 10.
And you didn't have these big mega stories kind of going on. The consequences. It'd be like just another one-off episode. But yeah, because of the placement of it, because it's taking up an episode out of an only 10-episode season, it's like, why are you wasting your time on this?
If anything, during the regular animated series, this could have been a 3-episode arc that you would probably watch live, and then you would, whenever you go back and rewatch them, you just skip these 3 episodes. But yeah, with it being 10 episodes, you just wasted, which I'll say that you wasted 1.5 episodes, because the first half of the first one, you had the Jubilee, not more videos. Yeah, that one with the whole video game thing, which was fun. It wasn't great, but it was fun to a point. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's not bad. I just don't give a shit, and that's kind of the end of it for that conversation. Going to our primary story, our main story, Fallout. Season 1 came out all at once. And Brian and I both binged it. Brian got it done way before I did, but that's because I watch it with my girlfriend and we watch it together. So we kind of watched it like 2 episodes a night kind of thing.
That's what I did.
But yeah, thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I never played the video game. I know the name of the video game.
I think I played maybe the first hour or 2 of Fallout 3 or 4, and then I was like, I'm not really intrigued by this, and I fucking turned it off.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about it. I don't even know what kind of game it is. I just know that it's the name of a video game. So I had no preconceived notions going into this thing. The cast didn't super excite me because it's a lot of unknowns or like small names that you don't really think much of, or like Kyle MacLachlan is not a big actor these days, things like that. Except for Walton Goggins, who is another person that we love.
He's the sell point.
But then again, I didn't know how much of a character he was going to be, supporting character, main character. I don't know what he's going to be. Is he the villain? Is he a hero? Which we still aren't 100% certain on where that falls. But but I was interested enough, at least, what it is the trailer that got me to watch it, because it's like the show is kind of like, okay, whatever. It's a game I don't care about. Mostly people I don't really have an opinion on. I don't know if I'll watch it. Maybe if I hear great things about it. Saw the trailer. The trailer I loved because it's just the tone of it, and it looked like it was going to be a fun kind of thing to watch. And so I checked it out, and I actually very much enjoyed the first season. I'm not going to call it like one of the best shows I've seen in years or anything like that, but I enjoyed it. I think the trailer was accurate to the show in that it has a fun tone. It also has its serious moments as well. but there's definitely a good dose comedy to it. The characters, for the most part, I don't know if I'm really, rooting for anyone in particular. But I like all the characters. I think Walton Goggins probably does the best job in this movie. The person whose name I don't remember playing Lucy, I think she does a good job.
Ellie Purcell.
Yeah.
Ella
The
Purnell.
Purnell, yeah. And then Maximus, who I know you have thoughts on.
Yes, I definitely have thoughts on Maximus.
I think that the actor does a fine job. I think that the character is just a little bit of a simp. So he's got his issues. But I enjoyed the first season. I'm curious to see where it goes from here. But it also seems like the kind of show that could just kind of drag out more of the same too long. So it's like I want to see story progression, because I don't want it to be like The Walking Dead, which I lost interest in after a few seasons, because it's like it just became rinse and repeat. It's like, okay, we're in this world of this post-apocalyptic world of zombies. Okay, we're gonna move here. Oh wait, we found a new group of people who turns out they're really bad. Okay, we'll move here. Oh, there's a new group of people. Oh wait, it turns out they're bad too. It's like, okay, let's not do that with this show. And so I wanted to kind of keep some forward progress. Now I don't know where the story is going. I don't know if it follows the video games or not. So maybe there's people out there that know more than I do.
This show takes place after all the games.
Oh, good. So there's not
all the games that have happened. This is all taking place after it. So like the whole big tease at the end of the last episode with the main guy. I'm not going to say his name for spoiler reasons. The thing he's looking at that is leading to a game, which I think was the most favorite game of everyone who plays Fallout. But even all that stuff was past shit. So this is actually taking place after all the games.
Okay. So, but yeah, it's like I think it's a great start. I think I'm actually glad it dropped all at once, because this is a show that if it was week to week, I'm not sure if I would have kind of eventually kind of been like, yeah, I'll catch up later on kind of thing. So I'm glad I binged it, and it's obviously gonna be a while till we see the second season, but I'm looking forward to it.
I like I said when you were talking, I only dabbled like an hour or so into Fallout. It definitely made me kind of want to test out the game a little more after we watched this. They got Jonathan Nolan, who did Westworld, who I loved the first season of Westworld. Season 2 was okay, and then I was excited for season 3, and I've never watched it, even though it's got my boy in it, Aaron Paul. I was like, oh, yeah, Aaron Paul. And I was like, I still haven't watched that. And then it just kind of got canceled. Ella Purnell, I think the only thing you know her from is Army of the Dead, which you hated because she was.
I forgot she was even in that. Okay.
Yeah, she was Batista's daughter. I know her from Yellow Jackets, which she's great in. Obviously, Walton Goggins. What more can you say about this man? This man's fucking amazing in everything he's in. Whether he's playing a crackhead drug dealer in Justified, whether he's playing a cross-dressing fucking drag queen in Sons of Anarchy, which is some of the best shit I've ever seen, or anything in between. This dude is a phenomenal actor. Why his movie roles haven't progressed as well? Because I mean, he's in movies. He was in Hateful Eight. He was the main bad guy in Tomb Raider. I don't get why his excellence only is on the TV screen, because he deserves to be one of the best actors in Hollywood. He is one of the best actors in Hollywood. But why it hasn't progressed into movies, I just don't fucking get it. But he is the standout MVP of this show. He has managed to do two different characters as well. I mean, they're the same character, but as the Ghoul and as essentially two different characters, and he plays them both fucking flawlessly. You are engaged. You are just edge of your seat whenever he is on screen. And he's supposed to be considered the bad guy because he's the Ghoul. But god damn it, he's the character you care about fucking most throughout this entire damn thing. And it's because of Walton Goggins' performance. I fucking loved the show. I thought it was fantastic. I am on the opposite side of you on this. I think it should have been weekly, because I think the conversations that we could have had between us, much like we've been doing with X-Men, would have been so much more fun than everything just dropping all at once. I think this one would have been a great week to week, much like The Boys and Invincible. And actually, I think Invincible would have been better as a binge than a weekly. But yeah, I think this should have been the next, like with House of Dragon and Rings of Power, how we were doing like every 3 episodes, a little review. I think this should have been that. but we got them all at once. I will commend this show as well, as you took 2 actors who immediately, once I saw them on screen, I went, oh, I hate this actor. Or I'm sorry, 3. There's 3 actors. One, which I know I'm probably gonna get some hate for, Zach Cherry. Zach Cherry was Woody, the heavyset guy who wanted to run as overseer and then got pushed to 32. He's the guy who's filming the fight in Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I can't stand that guy. I've never been a fan of him at all. The other actor is her little brother. Blanket, I don't see his name.
Moses Arias or something like that.
Yeah. I remember him from fucking Ender's Game, and I hated him in that movie. Granted, it's because he did his fucking job. He was really good at getting you to hate him. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, that guy. But he did a damn good job to make me go, I actually fucking like this guy. And lastly, and my girlfriend can attest to this, when I saw him on screen, my first response was, ugh, this motherfucker. And that is the actor who played Thaddeus, Johnny Pemberton, which is the bully of Maximus who ends up becoming his squire.
Oh, okay.
Everything I've seen him in, I have hated his ass. Superstore. We played like the wannabe like gangster of that shit. Every time he hopped on screen on Superstore, I love Superstore. Every time he's on screen, I was like, ugh, fuck this guy. And
he was one of the Jump Street films too, wasn't he?
What's that?
Wasn't he one of the Jump Street films?
If he was like probably in the second one, and if he was probably just like a drug dealer or something like that.
Yeah, that's like one of the nerds that was helping out Channing or something. Yeah,
he might have been. He might have been. I could not stand it. But you know what? Fucking loved him in this, and he made me give hope to this guy. I'm like, actually, you know what? I don't know if it's because his little like pedophile mustache, or it's just kind of like he's a little wimpy little douche, but he's actually a prick in this. I enjoyed him in this. I loved it. Maximus, and this is not against the actor. This is the writing of this character. This dude's the dumbest motherfucker alive. He's so fucking dumb. And for apparently, have you heard this? If you, because someone else made the same accusation, but made the same correlation of his character to this other person, and someone was like, "That's racist." I don't understand why it's racist. He's Finn from Star Wars, guys. He's a dumber version of Finn, but someone made that correlation and sort of like, "Hey, you better watch it. You might get yourself canceled." Why? Because Finn's black and Maximus is black. I don't understand. He's basically playing a person who was a soldier all his life, much like Finn was as a stormtrooper. He's kind of much like how Lucy is like a fish out of water. Maximus is to a point too, but at least Lucy's naive. Maximus is just fucking dumb. Like he just does some shit where it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Well, at least Lucy, she's actively trying to do the right thing, but she's so naive because of where she's from. Mm-hmm. Maximus is just like, hey, I'm going to tell the guy who beat my ass and bullied me who I am, like a day of us being together when we are not that close yet. And then, like, but granted, when he told Lucy what he told me, I was like, that was the right time for that because they had built that time with each other. But just Maximus just always did the wrong thing at every fucking moment.
The stupidest thing he did, the worst thing he did, when she asks you if you want to have sex, you say yes.
Yeah, it's like it's no different than the Ghostbuster theory. If someone tells you, "Are you a god?" you say yes. No, oh no, I'm afraid if my penis is gonna pop like a pimple. And
I feel like later on, he's like, "You can make my penis explode now."
I was waiting for that line too. Where it's like, "Oh, we kissed. I'm okay with you doing that now." Oh my god, dude! What? You never say no. Like, what is wrong with you? But there's so many like hopping out of the armor to go walk around town, leaving the armor fucking open. What? Are you dumb? You close that fucking thing up. You don't leave it just open like that for anyone to walk around. Then it destroys his radio at that one point. I don't know how many times where I was like when his guys Titus is getting attacked, I'm like, dude, shoot the fucking bear. Shoot him. Finally, he shoots him. Yeah, it's just at every turn.
Although, see, my impression was that he's like, yeah, he could have shot the bear, but I think he wanted him to kill the other guy. He's like, why would I save this guy? He's been treating me like a dick, you know?
Probably, but which granted he lets him die. Which also casting fucking Michael Rappaport, the most weird ass.
Okay.
That was 1,000% Michael Rappaport.
Because I was like, that totally kind of reminds me of Michael Rappaport, but I like it's not.
That was 1,000% Michael Rappaport. That is the weirdest casting ever. But just like what I loved about the show is that, and granted, I almost blame the story of the structure on why Maximus didn't work out for a while. It's because you got us so invested in Lucy and Vault 33 because that's how you started the show. The first 30 minutes was about them. And then you, once again, just like X-Men, it ends with this big battle. And then it's like, oh, let's jump over here to Maximus and this Brotherhood storyline. It's like, I don't care about this. I want to go back to Lucy and Vault 33 because that's the hook. That's the thing. So it got to the point where it's like every time they went to Maximus, up until the point where he finally got the armor, I didn't care about his character. I didn't like. I was bored every time he was on screen. Granted, that changed. You know, it's like I only cared about the Ghoul, which the Ghoul didn't show up until the very end of episode 1. But like, if the Ghoul and Lucy were on screen, I gave a shit. When Maximus was on screen, until Thaddeus showed up, I didn't give a shit. Now, once Thaddeus and him were together, I was like, okay, I'm actually intrigued by this storyline. Then they went back to the Vault. I was like, I don't give a shit about the Vault people. I care about the Ghoul, the story, and then at that point, Maximus. But they found a way to make the Vault story good. Every time I started to go, they're going somewhere I don't really care about. The writing and the story and the performances of everyone involved did what they needed to do to make you hook and care about everything going on. Because when the fucking season ended, I was like, wait, what happened with the brother? Like, are we supposed to assume that he went and did that? And my girlfriend was like, I think that was the assumption. I was like, but they didn't show it. Like, what? We're going to go 2 years before we see it? Like, we don't know what happened to him. But the show, first off, the opening scene with Walton, that was fantastic. Like, you want to start the show off right. You started the show off perfectly with that, with the birthday party and the thumb, like everything about that was beautifully shot.
And I think they did a great job with his whole storyline, where it's like, you know, they're going to certain parts and then it's showing flashbacks to show different parts of, you know, his past that kind of led him to where he is now, like before the bomb or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's like that can be done very well and it can be done very badly. And I think that they're doing it really kind of like Lost used to do it. It's like they give you the right piece of information at the right time.
And Westworld did the same thing. That's what made Westworld so intriguing. That's what made Westworld, people who had theories week to week, once again, because it was a week to week, which is what Fallout should have fucking done. Because it was at the end of all the Fallouts, you could have had these theories and all these videos and all these things discussing it. But yeah, it was very much like Lost and Westworld, where the mystery was going all the way through and they dropped the right amount of information at the right time. You couldn't really jump ahead. You could speculate, you could guess, but I don't think anyone, maybe your hardcore Fallout gamers were probably like, I know exactly what's going on. I know what's happening here. But the reveals were fantastic in terms of the situations, like finding out about Lucy's dad and where all that stuff happened in the final episode. I thought that was all brilliantly established. Same thing with Cooper, aka the Ghoul, and his flashbacks to his wife at that needle drop in episode 10 or 9. I think last episode was 9. Expertly done. I loved everything they did with this season, and when they did have the action and the zany craziness of it, I love the whole concept of the ghouls. How they're people who are basically effectively dead, but if they don't take medicine, they effectively turn into zombies. That whole episode with Matt Berry as the robot from what they do in the shadows, I thought was great. And then you had I don't remember the actor, but he's that one guy. He's like that guy that pops up in every like commercial, like the guy. He's actually one of the drug dealer dudes, and he fucking the long haired guy. I laughed when I saw him. I was like, of course he's in this fucking movie. He's like the Beavis and Butthead kind of character. Like he just pops up in everything. But yeah, I loved everything about this. I'm not, like I said, I agree. I don't think it's one of the best TV shows. The Last of Us to me is still 1,000, leaps and bounds better. But The Last of Us is telling a very different story than Fallout, obviously. But it's right there. It's right fucking there. Part of me almost wanted to start keeping track of new shows that started this year and almost have like a top 10 at the end of the year, top 10 shows. But I'm trying. I forgot, and we're in April, and I'm like, outside of Fallout, I can't remember what new shows started this year that I would like do that list for. But Fallout, it's great. It's fantastic. I hated that I had to that we only watched like 2 episodes a night because I just wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going. And like I'd be at work, I was like, oh, we get home tonight, I can't wait to watch Fallout. And it was because it was exciting. It made must-watch TV, and I wish that they would have done it week to week, because I think the fan base would have grown bigger had they done it the week to week than instead of just dropping all 9 episodes right then and there. Because once again, outside of like your hardcore fans, in a week or two, we're off to the next thing already. They could have bled this thing for 9 weeks, or they could have dropped the first 3 episodes like they do with The Boys, and for the next 7 weeks, we would have had this Fallout craze going. And now, by next week, it's not going to be much conversation anymore after it.
I always wonder how they make these decisions, because it's not like, Netflix always does them as a binge and Amazon always does them week to week or things like that. It's not consistent. Because like even within Amazon, you have like Reacher was week to week, but then like this is all at once. So it's like, how do they make those decisions? I don't know.
I don't know if it's lack of confidence. They think the show's going to have its legs for 9 weeks, but
I think they did have confidence in this, because I mean they have promoted it heavily. It obviously is a show that costs more. I'm sure this costs more than like Reacher or things like that. Maybe about the same as The Boys probably, but it's like they clearly have some confidence in it to spend that kind of money and promotion on it. So it's like, why just? And they didn't dump it, because I mean they still promoted it, but it's like.
And it's already gotten picked up for the next season.
Yeah.
So it's already establishing season 2 is going to happen. But yeah, I don't understand why they chose. Like I said, Invincible probably should be binged, and then they split that up into 2 4 episode seasons, with almost 4 months apart, between 4 episodes, 4 months apart, 4 episodes. That structure was stupid. Now, granted, it could have just been because the animation was behind and they needed the extra time, which I get that. The Boys, Gen V, those were week to week. Like you said, Reacher was week to week, and then this, just all at once. It makes no sense. Like I said, if it was on Netflix, it makes sense because they always do that. Disney Plus, they even changed it up. Like I said, fucking Echo dropped all at once, whereas like She-Hulk was week to week, and every other MCU Star Wars show is week to week. So I really don't understand why Fallout did it this way. I think it was the wrong choice. You obviously think it was the right choice.
No, I can see a case for the other way. I'm just with as much as I don't watch a lot of television shows. You probably would have
gotten bored or waited until they all ended and binged.
I've had too many shows that I'm like, when they come out week to week, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait till it comes out, or I'll watch something like I kind of missed an episode or two, and like, I'll come back and watch later, and never get back to it. There's plenty of shows that you've suggested to me, or other friends have suggested to me, that I've still never finished because I just never got around to going back to it. Whereas this is like, okay, I'm thinking about it right now, I can watch it all right now. So. Yeah. But no, I can actually see. I absolutely see the benefit of going week to week to gain that water cooler discussion kind of idea.
Right. But yeah, Fallout, pleasantly surprised. I expected to like it. I didn't expect to love it, and I can't wait for season 2. Like I said, if anything, it's made me actually want to try out the games, or at least one of them. I'm not gonna go back and play the old games. I might go play Fallout 4.
Yeah, I think that's the one I have on my system because I got it free. But
yeah, Fallout 4, and then like Fallout 76 was also free. But I heard that one's just kind of like okay. And New Vegas is the one that's most beloved, but you have to pay for that one. And I was like, I'll play 4 and then see how that is. Anything else you'd like to add before we end this episode?
Nope.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we have 2 movies coming out this week. One was already reviewed today with Boy Kills World with Brian, but I will hopefully maybe get to see it here this weekend, and hopefully Abigail as well. And then Challengers, which has really strong word of mouth. I was not preparing to see that, but now I'm kind of thinking I need to see it. Both those come out this week. I'm not sure if anything else comes out streaming wise. I'm checking real quick here.
Not this week, no.
Not this week?
No.
Yeah, the only thing I see, next week there's like The Idea of You, which is also getting great reviews. And of course, our first big film of the summer, The Fall Guy. comes out. It's one of our most anticipated films of the year, which before The Fall Guy comes out, Brian and I will be back with the summer movie preview. We'll be going over all the movies coming out this summer, what we're excited about, what we're not excited about, what we just don't really give a shit about. And I'm sure there's some in there that we're probably going to skim over because they haven't dropped any news or trailers or anything. And then they'll pop up. We'll be super excited for it. And we were like, why did you talk about that? Well, it's because we didn't fucking know anything about it at this time. Plus, as well, we will give our always incorrect top 10 predictions for box office.
You're spot on every year. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we totally predicted Barbie. Totally.
And Top Gun Maverick.
We totally weren't 3 days late on, or 3 days early on Top Gun Maverick and totally fucked up our whole thing. Totally. Absolutely. But we will have our top 10 box office predictions, and I will do domestic this year and not worldwide. And he does domestic and is completely way off. But I'm fully expecting to be way off again this year. I think each time we've done it, we've been like tied on equally being right and wrong with it. So if we take half of his and half of mine, we're probably going to be relatively close to it, but definitely not on. But feel free to check that out. That'll probably be out sometime next week. Also, Brian and I mentioned it on the last episode. We're going to be doing a Marvel look back. We're probably going to be doing that closer to Deadpool, but it's something that we're going to shoot at some point, and we'll have it out. But it was probably going to be closer to Deadpool because we got this and all the summer movies. But anyway, we're going to have plenty of videos popping up here, so we hope you guys check that out, as well as myself and Jordan, JPL Owens for Wrestling Crusaders. We've got Dynasty. AEW Dynasty was this past week, so we're going to have an episode talking about the reactions and feedback of that, as well as our fantasy wrestling draft, where we're going to be drafting wrestlers and doing our own fantasy league for that. That'll be next week. That's going to be interesting. I know Brian doesn't care about that because it's pro wrestling, but nonetheless, we got plenty of stuff coming here on the channel. We hope you guys tune in for all that. But until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.